This platform is independent, and we wanted to work with everyone across the spectrum. So folks are invited to share what they know, and the viewers makes their choice, and we ask the questions and we give the guest the opportunity to answer.
This craziness, man, I do not care. Why am I so anti-establishment? Because of what I've seen the establishment do to people. That's why I cannot be pro-establishment.
Power is in the hands of the people. And it really did. What we all witnessed is the government, they knew that they're heading in the wrong direction. They knew Gambians are speaking in the same voice.
What law in the books that says the government has power to come out and go after folks' private citizens' properties and demolish them because somehow the government interest?
The only way that we can salvage our country is when everybody that gets their hand dirty. Don't sit there with your expertise and just to procrastinate everything that people say or pontificate, what everybody says or does. Let's get our hands dirty.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. Another Sunday for the people, by the people. Brother Marong from Vancouver and Pap Samba from the nation's capital. And moi, of course, from Atlanta, Georgia. Pap Samba, I thought you don't drink hot stuff. It's all about...
smoke with it. I will call Nane see a mug that has the for the people, by the people. Have the man... I go other levels, man. I'm not Musajek, So sorry, that's what I do. When you this capital, dangle, you are at other level.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you.
I hear you. Yeah, I saw the picture. Beautiful. I mean, so now we are going to get into the merchandising. Not only are we going to be, it's going to be all about for the people, by the people. The cap is on the way. The T-shirt is underway, and of course, the mug. So all you viewers,
why did you start with the cap?
The cap.
Well, I thought that would with the T-shirt with the
mug. That's what he likes to do. Yes. So, Pap Samba, interesting week. Yep. Today is the 30th. I mean, AJJ Jamme, Babili Mansa is still yet. His plane hasn't landed yet. Banjul International.
It will never land. We'll be joined by Madi.
Yes.
But absolutely. I think we need to put something else, Musa, last 2016. And that's what brought us to Conversation Bunya Amte. Yep.
Yes.
Today was... when the closing remarks or whatever, the day when they didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, December 30th.
And we were excited. You know what? This is it. This man is going. I was watching some of these videos again and seeing, you remember that boy? IG, yes. I don't know where that young man is. The excitement in the country, everybody came, GDF doing its thing, Facebook lives, everybody doing what they had to do. And of course, tomorrow would have been the anniversary when Gambians went to the polls and said, we are tired of dictatorship. We are tired of the killings, the disappearances without trace. We wanted a new beginning for our country. And we are voting in a government that has promised that they would come and reform the country. A candidate who said that he was not going to run after he served 3 years. And of course, the rest is history.
The
rest is history.
No doubt. The rest is definitely history. And I can't even believe that Pap Samba, I'm 10 years older. Oh my God. Time flies.
It does.
The expectations, I remember we were sitting on the Fatu network. Listen, Pasamba was so scared that he started having these chest pains.
I was not scared of anything.
He had to be. Gigi had to help him by force. Damala Yubu emergency. And we were breaking down those results just like yesterday. And interestingly, we're still here. And in a way, I would say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. There are a lot of people that are not here with us. And that says a lot, no doubt. And talking about not here with us, MC Cham, Pasamba. Big tree has fallen. Brother Marong. A giant has actually fallen. MC Cham. Pasamba, I saw your call it a eulogy or tribute to MC. It was rather moving, and you're not very good at that.
What do you mean I'm not very good at that?
No, you're not very good at that. You're activists on steroids and all you do is protest.
and you are the partisan on steroids. But go ahead.
Oh, so that's your comeback now.
That's my comeback there. So, yeah, and most, if you remember during the 60th independence anniversary, I wrote something to that effect.
Right.
That it is a missed opportunity that MC, being the last surviving member of those who attended the 1964 independence conference in England, should have been given a front row seat at the celebration. To me, he should have been the one sitting next to the president, and his name should have been mentioned by the president in that speech. That 60 years ago or before that, this is a guy who, together with other patriotic Gambians, represented our country so well to bring us this celebration that we are doing today. But of course, the sad thing about our country most, we don't celebrate. We wait until you die.
Yeah.
And then everybody. I remember when OJ died, I had said that we cannot continue to be giving people medals or whatever after they're dead. Especially people, who are alive. Just give them their flowers while they are alive. Sometimes it helps, But really MC Musa, it's like he was a young man who was representing the young people's aspirations as to what an independent Gambia would be. And his story is interesting. The fact that he was sick, and even the PP didn't want him to be part of UP said, no, he's going to be part of our delegation.
Yeah.
He was on a stretcher, according to him, to go to London and participate in that process. He served in various capacities.
He did.
I heard Mr. Dabo's eulogy. I don't know whether you heard it yesterday.
I had a little bit of it, like at the mosque.
It was sad. And he was talking about how in 1973, when he was supposed to go back to Nigeria.
Yeah, I heard that one.
He didn't have the money pay for his school. He didn't have the money to take it to travel. He didn't even have the money to buy the gown. But it was MC Cham who stepped in and pretty much made it possible for him to go. And then most people didn't even know the role that he played in soccer. And that was why I put that deliberately there. Because the first president that we have of the Gambia Football Association was Foster. That was from 1952. And then B.O. Semega-Jane followed. And MC was there from 1966 to 1977 as the president of the Gambia Football Federation. So his role was not only in politics, it was pretty much beyond politics. And, somebody who came from Basse and did what he did. And, he was like somebody who, MC was MC. He said it as he saw it. He was very forceful with his opinions and did not mince words and was unapologetic about his feelings and all that. And, that's why he got the name, they used to call him Hitler, with his Gandhi Lemar and with the walking stick and all that stuff. So definitely it's a big loss for our country. If not for anything, but historically and his historical participation in shaping the destiny of our country, because they were the ones who went there and said, you know what, we are going to speak on behalf of the over 300,000 people, in that country that is being referred to as an improbable nation, and said, no, we are going to have a conversation and we're going to get our independence. And you know what? One thing that you got to give him, like you'll give OJ and a few others within the PVP, he never wavered.
He never did.
Run to Jammeh or this
No.
thing. They
No.
arrested him, they tortured him, they did everything to him. He
never
was one of the founding members of the UDP, stood by them and all that stuff. So definitely to his family, we just want to thank you for sharing him with us. And to him, definitely a nation would continue to be in his debt. Lord Mom, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Pasamba, growing up in the streets of James, Senegal, drinking our attire and very much anti the status quo, ministers, ministers now. And during those days, if you remember, a good number of those ministers, they're not the most educated, whatever the hell that means, at that time, compared to the kind of ministers we have now, that a good number of them are kind of policy wrong in different areas. Now, we still have the political guys. But at that time, most of them were either headmasters or teachers, and then that's how they become ministers. You know what I mean? And they rely a lot on, the technocrats, if you want to call them that, permanent secretary. They're the ones with the knowledge in terms of running the ministries. And then as a minister, obviously, you're just there, as the politician. MC was different. That's not how he swayed. I mean, you mentioned the name that he got. It's MC with he had the walking stick. He was a tall giant. And you will see him with the cigar.
Yep.
And he didn't mince his words. And I heard that even at the ministry level, permanent secretary, he wasn't somebody. I mean, he would give directives, argue with you, So Hitler, as he was called, he wasn't Hitler as a mean guy, but he was very assertive. I mean, his presence, even Garignone, most of the ministers were not really, I'm not understanding how on Ragal Jawara, call it Ragal or whatever. Not MC. He wasn't like that at all. Really. And Mercedes-Benz Bunyul be, I mean, that fit the position. At that time, when you call somebody a minister, they kind of, I mean, you're looking at a minister at that time. They were well respected. The position itself, not nowadays that anyone can just kind of roll into
the many honorables.
Not MC. And the last time, you remember we were talking about it when he had that interview.
Kid Fatou Touré. That was a good one.
Kid Fatou. When you listen to him, you'll be like, wow, this guy. And even Demba Mala Manela, I hope the MC has actually written a book. He needs to write a book. And so you were telling me that it was something that they were working on.
Yeah, Nene was working, because I spoke to Nene, the daughter, and they were working on it.
Yes, he has a story to tell. And key dafa feke, and feke matters. And when I listened to that program, I was glued, really. I mean, with everything that he was saying. But like all of us, one day we will all be going to the next phase of our transition, they want to call it. And if there is one thing, whether one believes in the life hereafter or not, but I guess it's a reminder to all of us. After you pass, it's always important for people to look back. He made a difference. As long as all of us are going to go one day, whether so they made them ajana or them safara, that's something else. But if you put that aside, just look at it as an individual, whether you're a politician today, whether you're an agriculturalist, or you're a doctor, or you're in the medical field, whatever you are in, especially politicians like MC Cham, I think you ñëpp war nañoo bàyyi suñ xel ne whatever differences that we have, ultimately, I mean, we are going to go and we want to leave this Gambia to be at a better place. MC Cham, yal na ko yalla xare ajana, yal na dedi no flyam suuf sedd ci loxom. Brother Marong.
Yeah, thank you, Father Mose and Coach. Yes, I read Coach's eulogy and that out of big brother Tijan Masane. So, yeah, the Gambia lost a giant, and we all pray that Allah grant him Jannah and those who gone before him. So, as you said, I've also listened to watch his interview with Fatou Toure. So very profound, and he did what he can during his lifetime, and I think the legacy should shoulder on, and we all should emulate his demeanor and his resilience, and keep walking the walk and talking the talk. So that's all. I join the family and the rest of all Gambians, and to mourn his demise, and may Allah grant his family the patience to cope with the grief. So, thank you.
Musa, I just wanted to add something to that.
Mm.
I had said something before, and they told me the president then had to be conferred with whatever it is, these national medals or whatever, because he can confer it to somebody else again. That has already happened. And I just want to call on the president that our country has a history.
Mm.
And that history was shaped by people who gave up a lot for it. And I believe before we wait until an other MC Cham goes and we start sitting here and just eulogizing them for what they've done in our country,
Absolutely.
I hope it is time for the president to put aside political differences and look at people for what they did, especially during the 22-year struggle that was waged by some of our political leaders on the ground. I'm not talking about us in the diaspora. You can even forget us for now. But I'm talking about people on the ground
Who actually, yeah.
who gave up everything for nation, went through hell and back, fought like hell. There is nothing wrong with telling them, you know what, just because of what you did for our nation, we just want to say thank you. It's not going to reduce anything to your presidency or your ambitions. If anything, it's just going to enhance your magnanimity. And I believe that because when they did it for OJ when he died, and then you gave him that medal, yes, it's good for the family.
Mm.
But whether it is the Usain Dabos, the Kemes and James, the Halifa Salas, the Sidi Ajatas, all these people, even Ahmadba, yeah, all of them who fought so hard for our country when it was the most lonely period.
Very lonely.
I think there is nothing wrong for the nation to say, you know what, we appreciate what you did for us. It's not going to do anything but at least show others that, you know what, we are a country that would repay people for standing by the nation. They were not doing it expecting it, but I think we owe it to ourselves and to them to say, you know what, thank you, you did well. And even had the Panderimbais and all these people who have gone, so at least their families will know that whatever they were doing, you know, was worth it. I'm sorry.
No, you are so right. In dialing back to that period, I mean, nobody, whether it's you, me, or anyone else, or people who are absolutely against this government, would not really say, we are at a better place. We are a better country. Absolutely no doubt about that. So I'm not one of those who believe that whole fighting that we did was in vain. But when you talk about recognizing people, if there is one fundamental thing that hasn't really changed, more the culture of politics. In as much as our country has gotten better, I mean, there is a semblance of democracy, there is freedom of the press, but the culture of the politics hasn't changed. And I think that's where you have all these things. Now, you talking about doing something that can be seen as being magnanimity. Yes. And you know what? In fact, everything that you do, there is a political calculation, actually is politically sound. It is politically, it helps you politically to say that, you know what, during this struggle, these are people that create. But you see, if you're busy talking about it makes it very difficult to talk about the contribution of other people, unfortunately. Now, being on a platform that is President Barrow is sometimes, and he talks about the difficulty, why he stepped out, why he was the one that confronted Jammeh. I get it. You can say that. But at the same time, like you said, it wouldn't hurt him politically. A day like today, December 30th, you invite everybody to the State House, everyone that fought for this. Talk about it, thanking them. What it does, it consolidates, it brings people together, and it helps politically. It helps the political milieu, if there's a word like that. It really does. You understand there are differences, political differences, and that should be, that should be understood for what it is. But then again, there is also something else. There was something called the betrayal. People don't want to hear it. Why more digger? Mm-hmm. If you are with people, you fought together, you had an agreement. Like a guy NPP, they don't want to hear that. They get offended when you say that. I'm going to name them fake. So fake dara. And that's why I kept saying it. Because we had an agreement. Everyone knew that. That's how you know it. That there is an agreement. Because for years, we couldn't come together to form a coalition. No, we know it. We know. The difficulty. Sorry, you know, Gambia L. We all know the difficulty. The turns here and there. So when we finally got it, it's because of we agreed. The things that we were afraid of. We had the safeguards in place. Not that we trusted each other, no. But we knew this is something that needed to be done. So you stretch in lohone okay. Odu salum salumi. Hamat nangunga ngane wow. You na fafa nangunga ngane wow. You don't law. Yay guru. Now, when you walk away from that agreement, I think it will be very difficult to come back. Nedanga, call it delo njukal. Or danga Jema been trying to be magnanimous in as much as it could be politically the right thing to do. But it is what it is. And it is very unfortunate. But like you said, these folks, they definitely need to be celebrated for what they have done. Because at that time, there are a lot of people. You talked about MC Cham. There are a lot of people during the time of Jammeh that basically made the calculation that, you know what, this is not in my interest to keep fighting. They went and joined APRC.
Yep.
And you go deaf. I'm not over my dead body. There are even non-political people that never wavered. They were not necessarily ministers. Babu Sise. These are just few people that I know. A whole host of other people. The people that were seen as the Banjul Cabal. Somebody, there was a name that Tijan mentioned. I didn't even know that he was alive. Key joiner. He was in play referee. I forgot his name. Mike Joyner? No, something like that. He's actually, AMC Cham's one of his friends. He's still alive. Mm-hmm. Those people, they never wavered. Where everybody was jumping, said, MC Cham of all people, he could have.
Easily.
Because maybe the calculation, when I see people, the current crop of politicians, the jump ship joining, Barrow, they're not doing anything different that some of the people did before, opportunists, if you want to call them. They made the calculation. Morgan Ayoma. Boy, I would understand what I need to do to be seen in a different way. No, we all know that. It's not.
James Madi Joyner, is it?
Huh?
James Madi Joyner, is that the name?
Mali Joyner, yes.
That's Harry, and that's her.
Harry Joyner, yes, exactly. These are folks. These are real Banjulians, my friend. Why they had something though. Why they had pride. They wouldn't waver. They were not going to abandon the ship that they believe was doing right for the country. Now, we had our differences, don't get me wrong. And why they never moved, my friend, you know? I mean, they were there. But again, talking about the current crop of politicians, as we get to 2026, we're going to see the same moves. People are going to make the calculation. Can La Folk win? Smoko join? How is that going to help me politically? Those are easy calculations to make. But again, come 2026, change has to happen. I think change needs to happen so that we can consolidate our democracy. Nothing more, nothing less. Whoever is elected, like you call me, I'm a partisan, and I believe you know the person that I want to be elected. But at the same time, if it's not him and it's someone, I will be celebrating. Because I believe our democracy will be consolidated. I believe we will be hitting that reset button. Lola Goman, Brother Maron.
So boy, we don't pata. We are in our element. Yagangen torop. You don't know these old timers. So you're talking about Musa. Musa won't tell you MC Cham sent back he would not travel. He was helping them, you know, take their luggages to the airport so that they can travel to the Independence District.
Now, I'm not pata loma. I'm gonna say it here. We are talking about people with antennas. Munema Pasamba, he doesn't even have an antenna. Zero antenna. The bandwidth is like, Have I afford it?
You know what?
I mean, but I'm going to send you the link so that we can talk about his bandwidth.
Pata doesn't have a bandwidth. Habusa lul so come bejon sa duko hame. So that's the thing. Sarian.
Brother Maron. My brother Marong, I saw you on the beach. Do you remember, man? Oh my God, this guy.
Oh yeah, I gotta. As you are aging,
Yes.
you have to put this thing into your routine. The 3 days a week exercise, 30 minutes or 45 minutes. You have to keep going, man. You have to keep doing your thing. So we got together with my folks and we went out there. It's called Cannon Beach is the east side in Oregon, so that's where we were.
Right.
You know.
Okay.
You gotta keep fit, Musa. You know, you cannot let the up tempo, man. You just gotta maintain the momentum. So 3 times a week, that's guaranteed, no matter what it is, man. I crawl out and do my thing, huh?
Especially sa bo ami ngeen baal ma seet bu yes.
I did. I know that's where you're going, but this has to do more with my health and mental health, my psychological well-being. So, everything that good in Yambas when it has nothing to do with sin stuff.
boo gisee mag jóg ku suba si di daw naan nii
But Musa, with all seriousness though, this weekend was busy, as you said, the passing of MC Cham, but there was another event that happened, which was there was a joint operation, at least according to the government, that captured some junglers who had maimed, killed Gambians, and they were in hiding, and which definitely posed a huge security implications. And for the first time, though, I'll go on the record. People know, for me personally, I know Sana was going in and out. And in fact, I made an effort to report this to one of a security chief in the Gambia. And the first thing he asked me, what was your source? And I don't care too much about source. Nobody disclosed your source. But the fact that these people were in and out. Sana, in fact, impregnated his wife. I mean, while he was out of the Gambia. So he's been in and out of the Gambia. So I'm glad that there was a security operation that ultimately captured him. But if we talk about all these things, it's a further implications. Why do we need to be serious about implementing the TRRC recommendation and also sending a very, very strong signal to the folks, including Jammeh, whether Jammeh has been in there, they've been in communication leading to this, whether his bluff saying that I'm going to come to the Gambia was a further, efforts in destabilizing the Gambia. I think the government needs to take this very, very seriously and follow the leads, especially Jammeh. If he is in Equatorial Guinea and he has such a plan, I think they should pursue by all means through international protocols to ensure that they go after him and bring him to justice. And the more delayed, based on these political calculations, the more messed up. Musa, I said this 2 weeks ago. Even the idea of ex-military officers, militants of APRC gathering in Kanilai and having this huge celebration, trying to landscape the compound and everything, they should not let them do it. Because you put the deterrence and you send a very strong message that I am in charge. I'm not going to accept this. This is the man who has killed a lot of Gambians. He's still away. Somehow we sit on platforms discussing whether he has the right to come and where there was some type of agreement. What kind of nonsense agreement it is? I mean, he tortured people 22 years. There is his folks still out there. And if they don't think this posed significant national security threat, they are fooling themselves, because these folks were on the run and they were in and out. I don't know how much visibility they had, but ultimately channeling these things and following Jammeh where he's at, it's very, very critical, and they cannot just let it. I think the pressure needs to mount right now. If they are able to interview them and get some type of intelligence and collaboration between these guys and the ex-president, I think they need to pursue at all costs and show that they rally support from the international community for them to hand him over to the Gambian authorities to deal with him and once and for all. And this whole thing, alignment, politics, nonsense, it doesn't matter. People being killed, folks out there who doesn't know their parents, and the brutality is way too much. And if we sit out here and we're debating the legality, or he has a right, or he has, how about the folks that have been killed? How about women who are orphans, who are widows? Kids that are orphans, who don't know their family, their parents, don't have the privilege growing around their father or mother. I mean, how do you face those families and talk to them? So I think we need to be serious, but I think the onus lies on the government to take this very, very serious and exhaust every avenue possible to ensure they follow the leads, they collect intelligence that's required, and make a campaign, a forceful campaign, to ensure that Jammeh doesn't meddle into the affairs of the Gambia. Those even audios, I mean, that is utterly nonsense. Absolutely. They should not accept it. And Barrow needs to ramp up on this thing and crack on dissidents. And not everyone has your right, but where your rights stop, that's where everybody's rights begin. So the fact that you are there telling people that this man is the president, he has every right, I think they need to ramp up and take it very, very seriously.
Absolutely. Ramp up, take it very seriously. Brother Madi Jorbated, we owe you a hell of an apology. And you can blame it right. You know the person to blame. He calls it miscommunication.
It was your own self.
Okay. You were supposed to be here last week. We got it all. The publicity was out there. Everybody was looking forward to it. Something happened. They decided not to show up. My man from Vancouver had to go do his running at the beach. We all saw him doing his thing. and then Pasamba saying like, "Oh, I had to go to work." So it was a question of canceling it. Like, okay, I don't think I can take the activists by myself.
So you were scared.
I'm gonna need help. But anyway, and again, Pasamba thought that I already communicated it to you, that we were going to postpone it, and I was thinking the other. But anyway, we apologize immensely, and we apologize to our viewers, because they were looking forward to definitely having you here last week. But all the same, you are here. Thank you, Brother Madi. Good afternoon from Atlanta, Georgia. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm fine, and good afternoon from Kembuje, West Coast region. Apologies accepted. I'm not sure whether it's even worth it. Yes, all of that was done, and so I was actually I watched the entire show. Yeah, I mean I enjoyed the conversations, but then I mean the way it was going, I was like, okay, let me do the listening. So I thought maybe I should not just interrupt, and so I was enjoying with the UDP folks and others. I enjoyed the a speaker from, I guess, Spain.
Yes.
That I remember Juka.
Yes.
Yes, and some other people. So I was just watching, and sometimes very much inspired by the ideas Gambians express.
Exactly.
Sometimes concerns and issues that I wasn't even thinking about.
Right.
So it was a very nice banter.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I didn't say a word, but definitely I enjoyed it from the background. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, and we're gonna be doing that a lot. The last hour of the program, we're gonna dedicate it to people actually, because again, there are people that are watching. I mean, they have something to say. We want to make it interactive. We want to hear from them, because when everything is said and done, it's about all of us. It's not about just us doing the talking. Also want to hear from them, and then we believe that would help the conversation without a doubt. Really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Up Samba.
Yeah, Madi, thank you very much again for coming, comrade. It was all Musa's fault. Musa has this thing against activists. So that was, so, but now he's the partisan on steroids. But but thank you for joining us again. I know there are a lot of things that have happened. I was just watching your interview that you did with the South African TV. About the happenings in Guinea-Bissau, the fake coup.
Yeah,
and it's very sad. And now here we are waking up to Jammeh's killing gang.
Yeah, it appears our leaders are smarter than us. They always come with some fascinating drama that we never expected, because I think Embalo has taken things to another level.
Oh yes. Yeah, and it's just ridiculous, the dishonesty of our people, and this is what happens, and this is why you see, like, let's look at Mbalo. Mbalo had said that he was not going to serve as a quota. He willfully violated the constitution of Guinea-Bissau. His term expired in February. He decided, no, we are not going to have elections yet, but before we have elections, I'm going to disqualify this incredible candidate, thinking that he was going to have it in the bag. And you look at even Gambia too. When Jammeh also came with his elections bill in 2015 and increased the fee to 1 million and say, okay, I'm going to now arrest the whole of the UDP leadership, put them in jail. His calculation was, you know what, I got this in the bag. But normally, your actions do not always match with the reaction of the people concerned. And this is what had happened. But again, it is also important for, let's say, I'm even going to talk to President Barrow on this. When OJ died, and Barrow spoke at that funeral, and that correte that happened before OJ died, there was little doubt from the Gambian people that this man may not run for a third term. But of course, like what happened to Jawara in 1991, you will have people who will come around you and tell you that without you, nothing is going to work.
Yes.
And you look at Embalo. If Embalo had did what he promised, he would have been a respectful former head of state who would have lived in Guinea-Bissau. Nobody would have gone after him because there would not have been any need for that. But he reneged on that. If Jawara had stuck with his decision, I'm not going to run again, Maybe
Very hard.
1994 could not have happened. Maybe. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
And this is why President Barrow, if I were him, I would rethink this idea of running for a third term. Because there is nothing that he's going to do for Gambia that he could not have done for the past 10 years in the
Absolutely.
presidency. And he would have had the opportunity of being the first Gambian president to peacefully hand over power, be at this swearing ceremony of his successor,
Right.
go to that house, that compound that we gave him to live in, enjoy his salary and be protected. And he would have been respected not only in the Gambia but around the world. But you will always have people who will come to you and tell you, without you, nothing is going to work. And this is why the president could not come with any tangible explanation for as to why he was going to run for a third term, other than if I do, my party will die. It's not if I do, nobody is going to die at the hospital for lack of medication. Or if I do, Gambia would flourish much. No, it's my party. And this is the sad thing. And when you say that he has a right to, of course, there was a time when people had a right to slavery. That didn't make it right. But I hope that the president will sit today and reflect on this very day, 9 years ago, and reflect on tomorrow, and the aspirations, the hope that the Gambians had, the happiness that they had because of a new beginning, and say, you know what, I will give you something that you've never had in your life. I'll be that president who would run for only 2 terms and oversee my successor taking over power, and I would drive my Benz or whatever he drives to my residence that you guys have built for me. But again, if you continue this foolishness that these African leaders do, this is what ends up happening. It does not help anybody, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you get to think about it deeply, critically, you go around 360 degrees and you begin to wonder, why do people do this? I mean, not just leaders, but let's just say ordinary people like you and me. Why do we think we have on some unlimited power, or we are special? I'm setting up Edward Francis Small Center, for example. I have some volunteers, and I tell them I'm not the leader. We are all leaders here. If I can, we wouldn't even have titles. We are coming to do service. It's a mission, and I just want to go there and do my mission for a limited period and leave, and others continue. And so it's so strange. All the examples you've given, there is so much lesson for Barrow to learn from, and anyone else in this position, because the lesson has been that all leaders who attempted to overstay, to impose themselves, they don't end well. Some in a very catastrophic way. I mean, who would imagine Gaddafi would end the way Gaddafi ended, for example? Or Hosni Mubarak would end the way he ended, or Blaise Compaoré would end the way he ended. And the examples are there. But then at the same time, you can look at the way Mandela ended. I mean, came and realized that, look, I have I'm human, and I'm a mortal man, and this is what I can do. Under the circumstances, this is my capacity. This is my time and circumstance. This is what it gives me, and I recognize as I'll do that. And so in the end, he did what he did. I mean, Nyerere at one point came to realize, look, I have to leave. Even Senghor here, and today Senghor is celebrated. So the examples are too many. All right, but Jawara, the way he ended at the end of the day is simply because he just stayed too much. You stayed in the place for too long, and when you could have left very easily, and so on. So Barrow has more than enough lessons to learn from, and not just from these particular leaders, but also of all the people around you, because all those leaders also had people around them, as surrogates, as advisors, as ministers, as so-called technocrats, and so on. And when you read all of their stories, you can see how they all pushed him or a particular leader under the bus. They all pretended or claimed ignorance or uninvolvement and put everything on the particular leader. So to them, tomorrow is December 1st, and I hope governments would take a time to reflect on December 1st, what it means for us in our history and experience, and but particularly for Barrow himself, and of course all our political leaders, to realize how much we have drifted and the need for us to collect ourselves and come back to track, because the stakes are very high. I mean, Gambia as what is happening inside, but in the sub-region, in Africa, in the world, when you look at the geopolitics, the dynamics, it tells you we live in very precarious times. And Barrow and all of us must realize what is at stake, how fragile our lives are and so on, so that we reposition ourselves to look. It is not just about today, this is about the future. How do we safeguard, protect, ensure the existence of this society as the Gambia. So I mean, this is the tragedy we are in right now. Mbalo, like you said, he said his wife said, let him not seek a second term. And I hope he had stuck with that. But yeah, he played a fantastic game. I said when he wanted to impose himself, since that did not work, he decided to escape. And but also realizing Senegal is not a good ground. I mean, a very place to cover. So he went, of course, as they usually do to their fellow dictators. So he ran to Congo to Denis Sassou Nguesso. So there, I think he is safe, much like Jammeh is safe with, Obiang, so long as they don't have a problem, with each other. But I mean, the bigger picture also is the fact that what is ECOWAS doing about this, and what is AU doing about this? And in the first place, and which is an argument or conversation I've been having, with myself, with many other stakeholders, that the situation in Guinea-Bissau is also symptomatic. It also manifests the failure of ECOWAS. All right. So it is not just a failure of governance in Guinea-Bissau, it's about the failure of ECOWAS across the region, because ECOWAS in 1975 years emerged as economic well-being of West Africa, but towards the 90s, realization is that you cannot just have economic integration, economic well-being, and so on, economic freedom without political freedom, and political stability, good governance, and so on. So this whole idea of governance became integral to ECOWAS. But eventually, what we see, ECOWAS turning into a firefighting institution than a democracy building institution, so that it is peacekeeping missions first to Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea-Bissau itself. The coup happened when there are ECOWAS forces in Bissau at this moment, in the Gambia and so on. But why that is the case, when it should have been really building institutions, building democracy from the ground up. And this has been the failure of ECOWAS. And unfortunately, ECOWAS at the commission, at the authority level, at the parliament level, appears to not still realize that ECOWAS is not fit for purpose. ECOWAS is on the wrong footing. And, I urge everyone to read ECOWAS instruments. You can see the huge inadequacies, the protocol setting up the ECOWAS parliament, for example, the ECOWAS treaty itself, establishing the commission and the authority, the functions, the powers given to them. You realize ECOWAS is created in such a way, legally, in terms of its legal policy framework, that it can only be what it is, a club of presidents. And so, in the final analysis, those presidents cannot hold each other to account, because at any time in the history of ECOWAS, 75% are either on military, or they're autocrats, or even democratically elected, but actually, abusing their own constitutions and so on. So that at the end of the day, they cannot hold each other to account. And right now, I think ECOWAS should bow its head in shame. You have 4 of these countries, now 5, under military rule.
Yeah.
You have a situation in Cote d'Ivoire. Ouattara flouting the constitution, doing as he wish, and now in his fourth term. Togo is like the special son, the favorite son of ECOWAS. I mean, just sitting there like that for Nyasimbe, changing the constitution practically. You know,
Everyone.
it's amazing what is happening in Togo that people don't talk about, because Togo now, the citizens cannot elect their president. It's the only country on earth citizens just cannot elect their president when it's supposed to be a democratic republic. All right, but again we see a country that we had some hope in, Benin. The president Talon just changed the constitution to extend his term from 5 years to 7 years. So I mean, you look at the picture. Even countries we are touted as democratic, let's say Nigeria or Ghana or Senegal. I mean, it's good. Senegal's got a change. I mean, just last year, and Ghana, and they give some hope, about transformation, and I hope that lasts. But on top of that, I mean, underneath them, there's still serious issues, governance issues that needs to be corrected. Will they correct it or not, or will they go the Gambian way? We bring about change, only to go back to what we removed. Yeah.
So Madi, would you really? I mean, I think it's easy to point fingers at ECOWAS. But when you look at ECOWAS, I think we have to drill down to the individual countries, the composition. If you're having, governance challenges in Gambia, you have governance challenges in Ghana, you have governance challenges, and these are the countries, the composition that you would call ECOWAS. I mean, what do you expect? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
So it's not necessarily ECOWAS per se, but we have to fix the individual countries in terms of governance. Or democracy.
Yeah, ECOWAS is as good or bad as any of its members. And the membership that we have, these states, their governance situation is very weak. And, if any, what giving me hope right now, I think I would say Ghana with the new president. Some of the steps, decisions I see them take, but otherwise, I mean, all of these individual countries individually are all in such poor governance environment that, with the kind of instruments we have also established in ECOWAS, and its various institutions, one cannot really expect anything better out of ECOWAS, and that it means, I mean, we have the political will from these leaders to really transform ECOWAS, which I don't think. So we are in a very serious situation, Musa, in West Africa, and of course the rest of Africa, because I mean, again, we are 60, 70 years away from colonialism.
Definitely.
All indicators point to very precarious situation in West Africa: the economy, social services, peace and security, exclusion or inclusion, diversity, the migrant issue. These are all problems. Insecurity, terrorism and violent extremism. Is serious. I mean, Oxfam UK released a report a few years ago, 2023 or so, highlighting how West Africa is the most unequal region of Africa. That 1% of the population hold, what 99% have combined. So it also explains why, therefore, you look at Nigeria. I mean, so all of these states are just fragile states. So that you look at Nigeria, it is very clear that the state does not have effective control over the territory of Nigeria. If you can have non-state actors acting contrary to the constitution and flouting, challenging the power, the authority of the state, and the state cannot do anything about it. So people can go and kidnap school children and take them away in the bush, and the state cannot do anything about that. So that clearly tells you the Nigerian state is weak, just like the Gambian state or the Senegalese state or the Ghanaian state, and that is a major governance issue. that I mean, I hope these governments um, respond to this, objectively, honestly, than try to give excuses. We are now talking about the Gambia, for example, uh, Jamia, and now the junglers that have been arrested. I mean, um, 9 years. These are people within the territory of Gambia, Senegal, and Guinea-Bissau,
Mhm.
and for 9 years, they can go freely around, and they couldn't be apprehended. So it raises the question: what is the capacity of the Gambian state, the Senegalese state, the Guinea-Bissau state, to the point that you cannot apprehend a few individuals, of that type? All right, and that is just in terms of security, but also look at it in terms of services. How in the Gambia there are so many communities that don't have state presence in terms of services, say a police station, a health center, roads, electricity, water. All right, not just a pole being put up there or a line being stretched there, but to ensure that you are enjoying this service, consistently, reliably, I mean, affordably, across this country, 11,000 square kilometers. But that is the same case. You would realize is in each and every other state in West Africa. After 60 years, the state, is still limited in its presence, in its impact, positively for that matter, on the lives of its population. So that is a whole conversation ECOWAS and our state should have. Why should that be the case? When on the other side, you would realize that whether it is in terms of skills or knowledge or resources, financial resources, it's immense what we have. There cannot be any excuse, really, why that is the case. The lack of state presence in every, part, of the Gambia, or in every part of Senegal, in every part of Nigeria, and so on. It's a big problem.
So, Madi, I mean, somebody supporting the government could be listening to you and say, Madi, I mean, don't bunch us. We are not Togo. We are not like some of these other countries that kept changing term limits here and there. Gambia is a country that we are consolidating our democracy. I mean, we have a free press, and you're talking about lifting the living standards of the Gambian people. I mean, they'll tell you we're bringing, electricity poles are all over the country, access to water, we're building boreholes. I mean, they'll tell you Gambia is on the move. And whatever Madi is saying, clearly he's not being very objective or fair in the case of the Gambia. We're better than all these other countries. What happened, they will say, what happened to Guinea-Bissau? There's just no way that can happen to Gambia. Election results have to be have to be announced, and all of a sudden the president just pulled the trigger. They'll tell you there's no way. Our democracy has matured enough to avoid something like that. What do you say to that?
So what I would say is that what happened in Guinea-Bissau happened in the Gambia. It is just, there are two sides of the same coin. Embalo prevented the results to be announced, and Jammeh allowed the results to be announced, but they rejected the results. So at the end of the day, we are on the same page, or two sides of the same coin. But to the key issues you raised. So what I would say is that all of the issues you've raised did not start in 2017. If you go and read the Gambia's first National Development Plan, with Jawara, in the 70s, in the 80s, they are lofty. And they talk about the things you've raised. And because these are the things that every state everywhere is doing. Somalia may be in war right now, or Ukraine is in war right now. But as they are in war, they are building hospitals, they are building schools, they are providing electricity. A country like the US, until today, they are building roads and hospitals and providing services. That is the very nature of or purpose of a state, of a government. So if somebody tells me that, therefore, I will tell the person, look, and particularly focusing on the Gambia. I said, imagine Jawara at the time when they set up Central Bank for the
Yeah.
first time. For example, they set up Gambia College, MDI, GPTI. They set up NARI for agricultural research and so on. They set up
Right.
GAMTEL and touted as one of the best in the government. So things were happening on the Jawara.
Mhm.
All right. But by 1994, poverty, deprivation, unemployment, at the same time, corruption and abuse of office was rampant on the Jawa's regime. But now, if you move on to to Jame, Musa, this is interesting. Some of the most formidable good governance and human rights institutions and instruments of the Gambia were built during Jame's time. All right. Jame's time had an Anti-Corruption Commission Act. But also, that is when we had IEC. That is when we had NCCE. That is when we had the Gambia Competition Commission. That's when we had bodies like PURA or GRA. Or we have, institutions like Ombudsman. All right. That is, when we had also in terms of development, some of the most, important development institutions, let's say the university or national television. All right. Mention infrastructure development. Roads went to places where there were never ever roads, bridges, schools and hospitals where they never existed. So on the Jame, we can highlight so many, critical governance, development instruments and institutions. All right. But by 2016, when Jame left, 2017, what we know is Gambia was classified as a highly indebted poor country. All right. And now when we got to this point on the Barrow, we are seeing an expansion of all those things again. We now have a National Human Rights Commission. We have an Information Commission. I'm sure the Anti-Corruption Commission, they said they're coming to set it up very soon. Many more instruments, convention, the Prevention and Prohibition of Torture Act, the Information Commission Act, Access to Information Act. All right. Persons with Disabilities Act. All right. Just like Jawara's time was when we had the Women's Act, the Children's Act. So under all these regimes, basic stuff that a government would do was being done. And that will continue. As I said, if America, which is over 200 years old today, are still creating institutions, instruments, and goods and services, that is the nature of society. That always come. So the issue, therefore, is not to say, but Madi, look at the roads we build, we've expanded electricity. At the end of the day, for example, I hear this government say we have provided electricity, more meters than Jawara, the colonialists, and Jame combined. But the point is, we don't need only meters. I have meter here in Kembuche for the time I've been here. But I would have on my meter, put cash power there, and then there's no light. Meantime, I've bought the light, it's in my cash meter, and then the light is not there. Just like somebody would go to Edward Francis Moore Teaching Hospital, you need some specific care or attention, and the equipment is not there or is broken down. And the examples go on and on and on. So it is not merely to say, okay, how many schools we've built, or hospitals we've built, or meters we have distributed. But at the end of the day, how do we ensure efficiency, of the state? Efficiency, value for money, because there are building roads. Now, this morning, normally I do my work exercise weekends or public holidays. Now, if you're in Kembuche, there is this Kabafita road that, branches of in Brikama. If you're familiar with Brikama to the Jar Oil Station or cement factory, the GEC petrol, electricity company down in Brikama heading towards Farato to Bafaloto and so on. Now, I saw they have built a new road in that Bafaloto and Farato Bafaloto and going. And I look at the road. I wish I had taken a picture. For poor people who have been suffering from potholes, the dusty roads or the muddy roads, it is some relief, sigh of relief. But then when you come to in the life of a country, in the life of an economy, in terms of value for money, you clearly know this is corruption. This is waste of public resources, because this is a road that is not going to survive 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and the evidence is there. So the issue therefore is not the how many roads we have built and meters we distributed, and that is my issue, and that is why, and maybe some people don't understand that part, and they say Madi doesn't see anything good about this government or as the government. No, because my insistence has always been on the rule of law. All right. So even if you build a road, is it in line with the rule of law? The process, that we are not just going to look at the end, but the means, also the process to how we got to this point. We are looking at the efficiency. How much money has been spent on ferry service, for example, in the Gambia between Banjul and Bara? It's millions of dollars. But then you come and look at that service, you realize that this is not value for money. Something is missing, and that equation is what we have to figure out. So that if, for example, that person who supports government, as you said, comes to me, instead of looking at, being displeased or, about what I'm saying, is to ask himself, but look, government, you should be efficient. You should be transparent and accountable. You should be responsive. All right? That the goods and services you provide should indeed be value for money. And that is the reason why national debt is so high, and therefore, at the end of the day, the goods and services provided are not making a significant difference in the lives of the people providing the opportunities. It is not that investment is not being made, all right? No, it's not that investment is not being made. It's not that government is not building institutions or facilities and providing services. They are, but the point is the way and manner they are provided are not producing the results that would have made the transformation, the constructive change in people's lives, so that today a Gambian, I was saying this few days ago, young people going in the back way. Now it's not even young people, but Gambians going in the back way. We've seen soldiers put down the gun and go on the back way. We've seen teachers drop the chalk and go on the back way. We've seen government civil servants abandon their work and they go on the back way. All right. And I told them, look, we may be talking about the back way because the tragedy and all of that. But I said, do you also know how many people are going to the front way? People of my category, people of your category, who have the knowledge, the skills, the experience, and they just say, I want to leave Gambia.
And go to a better place.
And go to a better place. So back way, front way is the same. It's just that one way is safer than the other. But why that is the case? When they did this Spain circular migration agreement, which I completely oppose, I saw the press conference, the Minister of Trade, or then the Minister of Trade, Babakan Boy or Babakan Juve, and explaining how fair and all of the good things about this, to the point that jubilating how even his driver applied but did not get, because it was done fairly, that he did not favor his driver. But the point I said that Babukar missed as a minister is the fact that all driver would think of, look, I'm going to abandon this and go to pick oranges in Spain. That should have told the minister, look, then something is fundamentally wrong with my government. And that, I don't know how that escapes our technocrats, our policymakers, our leaders, that we are in a very precarious situation in this country.
Precarious place, according to Madi. Brother Marong, what do you say to Madi? Precarious state of affairs, he said.
Hey, Madi, to Brother Madi, thank you very much for coming on the show this week. We missed you last weekend, and due to scheduling conflict, but nevertheless, it's always good hearing from you. So Brother Madi, I was listening to you in terms of the development, the build-up, and all that. So I understand the concept where you're saying the true value, transparency, and accountability. But at the same time, I think infrastructure-wise, build economies, and it kind of connects the rural, urban, and it kind of creates an opportunity in terms of economic flow. How do you strike a balance between, the dichotomy of yeah, the folks that actually gets these public funds to spend on these big infrastructure, but also the need to have these in order to connect rural, urban Gambia and get a good economic flow. And I just kind of wanted to hear your take. How do you do that? Because obviously, if there is not a hospital in Bansang or Fonyi and there are not good roads, I mean, if someone needs an urgent care in Banjul, obviously they need to kind of be there at a split second to ensure they have those services. How do you balance that for the population?
So this is not a difficult or easy task, because the, the heart of the matter is it's about data, it's about evidence, so that it informs planning. So is research, but also understanding, issues of governance and development. All right. In terms of decision making, in terms of distribution of resources. All right. All geared towards how do we ensure a viable society, bearing in mind that inherently every society has the capability to sustain itself. All right. So this equation, I think, is the one that has been eluding the African elite, as technocrats, as policymakers since independence, and largely because, um, the failure of the elite to submit objectively to that research, to that data, to that evidence, but also upholding values and standards, whether it's about management, whether it's about governance, whether it's about law. All right, to say we are going to submit ourselves to this, because other societies have done this. All right, we can look at Singapore, which gained independence together with the Gambia in the same year. All right, and 5 years, I mean, after Nigeria gained independence in 1960, or Senegal in 1960. But where is Singapore today compared to Nigeria and Gambia and Senegal? China gained independence in 1947 or 49. That is, less than 15 years before we gained independence. All right, or around there. And China is a superpower now in any way you can imagine. All right, we can look at many other countries, whereas India is a nuclear power today. It gained independence about 15 years or 10 to 15 years before Nigeria gained independence. India is manufacturing, it's a manufacturing nation, industrialized nation. So many nations have done this. And when you look at the Gambia in particular, we have all of the necessary resources from where to start to make sure we have a you know a development agenda or development program that ensures that that rural urban divide by now should have collapsed. That there shouldn't have been any difference between Banjul and Basse, or between Serakunda and Boraba, or between in terms of the availability of services. All right, but that is not happening, and I would say it is not that there is something fundamentally wrong with the Gambia. All right, it is not in our stars. It is simply because when they put the development agenda on the table, mind you, they always had a development plan, since 1970 until today. But then, when a Jawara's development plans, all right, you remember in the 80s, he came with ERP, followed by PSD, Program for Development. Jame came with Vision 2020, which had various components, PRSP 1, PRSP 2, Page. Barrow came with NDP, which now is in its second phase. And still, the situation remains the same. Now, as I said, it is not because we don't have the resources. All right. So, if anything, I think what we lack is the commitment and the values, which is commitment itself of the decision makers, the policy makers, the technocrats, to ensure that when we say roads, for example, what master plan do we have in terms of road building? So that if I look at the roads that are being built right now under the Barrow government since 2017, I see no plan, and I see road building taking place, one, as ad hoc, all right, but two, no value for money, and 3, not cognizant of the value of that road in terms of the economic, social, cultural realities and needs of this society, whether it's the OIC road or the 20 roads that OIC under the OIC project were being built. And for me, I'm like, okay, we are putting ourselves into more debt, and we are not even marginally transforming our country in the next 5 to 10 years. Because look at the roads Jame built within 20 years, because Jame was in power 22 years. So all the roads Jame built, at most, they are 20 years old. But a lot of those roads have run down. A lot of those roads lack, basic facilities that a modern road should have. And a lot of those roads, therefore, have not contributed to the social, economic, and cultural rejuvenation of the Gambia. So this is the point that I have with this government, and which I keep happening. And I do not think it is a difficult thing to do, because Sarian, the cheapest thing for any government to do is to build a road, or build a school, build a building, build a bridge. Why? Because you can go and take a loan. You can take money from our coffers. You will hear Barrow say this is the first time they are taking money from the national local funds, invest in road building, because it is there. Because GRA is collecting money every day. Government has so many revenue sources. Government can take loans. Government receive grants. So imagine give me $1 million. You say go and build a one-room house. I will do it in a matter of weeks. I'll just hire people to do it. So it is very cheap to do so. But the issue now is, how do you come to build that road? How have you factored that road in terms of serving the social, economic, and cultural life of the community, of the country? All right, so that road is not going to be a liability, but will be an asset. The roads that Jame built, unfortunately, and what is continuing, have become liabilities, because what happens is they run down, and already they have put us into debt that we are, paying, through blood from our nose. So, and I think, again, government needs to go and ask themselves this question, and take a very deep reflection from Jawara's time to now. Hello?
Yeah, but Brother Madi, but here's a little bit of and I'm not speaking for the government, but here is a parallel argument I would sort of lay out. Definitely, we need the roads, and say the hospital that's been built in Faratu, for example, modern day hospital. Obviously, it's going to create jobs for Gambians. Gambians are going to get a form of survival and income, and also these road infrastructures. I don't know the details on the procurement bid process or whatever, but Gambians get benefit to work on those. So if the government is say, oh, you know what, that might be fine, the process might not be 100%, but at least we are facelifting the country. We're building infrastructures, we're putting money, and yes, there is a local government funds, but if that is not sufficient, because I listened to CD a couple of weeks ago, he's saying the debt servicing that the current government is paying, people are not highlighting that. It goes back to Jammeh era. Jammeh was not paying its obligation. When the new government came in, they were taking that on. So now how do you balance that? Because they obviously the local government funds is not sufficient to service the debt and also, fund these huge projects. Obviously, they have to go out and take loans. Well, whether that loans is put into efficient use, I cannot stand here in good conscience and say that. But now, how do you argue that? Because as I said, there is a dichotomy and a delicate balance between we need this, and it also connects rural and urban Gambia, and it also drives economic of scale for people who might bring goods and services. We know in the combos, Kartong to Kwaine, there are people from Kartong who goes to Banjul every single day to sell their goods from the Guardian to get a form of,
income to go, feed their families. But how do you per se, how do you, and these are the very people at the end of the day, they go and vote. And when they vote, they will say, oh, you know what? Now transportation is not an issue. I'm able to go back and forth and do all these things. How do you strike that balance?
Yeah, so as you are talking, Saria, so many things are flowing in my head. You are generating so many ideas. I don't even know which one to start with or take or drop. But I'll pick just two issues on education and agriculture. But before I say that, let me say what CD said should even make governments very much concerned and very afraid. If until now the loans we are paying 80% are loans that we are taking on the Jame, it raises the question. Therefore, the loans you have taken from 2017 to today, so we have not started paying those ones yet. When are we going to pay those ones? When debt servicing is increasing. So I find that very worrying statement when they have taken more loans than Jame and Jawara combined. Yet we are paying Jame era loans. We have not started paying Baro era loans, which is continuing. All right. So to say also taking loans is not bad. Every country would take loans. You and I, we need loans, all right, to invest, to produce, to attain better life. Countries that are far more advanced, let's say the United States, for example, or Japan, you realize that they have more loans than, more than the Gambia proportionately. All right, because our loans, I don't think it's up to 100% to GDP. Those countries are talking about 120 something percent to their GDP. But the issue is, if you take loans, you invest it. I mean, to create wealth, and that is very broad, to create wealth so that you transform society. So as I said, I will take two issues, education and health. When you take education, for example, today we call them universities. But I was telling some people a few days ago, I said, Jawara had built these things here because we have University of Science and Technology research. You can connect it to GTTI. I mean, if you look at purpose, all right. You have University of Civil Service. You can connect it to MDI. That is an institution to build, administrative, management and so capabilities of civil servants and people around, in the administration, finance and business area. All right. But if you look at UTG as well, you can think of it in terms of the Gambia College, and not to forget that on the Jawara, there was the Jinoi agricultural teaching, place. That was RDI, Rural Development Institute. So when you look at it, even on the Jawara, relevant institutions were created that by now, GTTI, before Jawara left, should have been expanded to the point that, performing such that we would have been manufacturing some things, as a TVET training center. We would have been doing inventions, we would have been doing manufacturing. GTTI was capable if the necessary attention, efficiency was put to it. But at the same time, we had MDI. It should have provided or produced such technocrats that we would have had, a very well-functioning, performing civil service. That administration in the Gambia would have been productive than what it was when Jawara was overthrown and until now. Gambia College, the same thing, that it would have produced teachers and an education, learning and education teaching environment, which would have seen Gambia's, literacy rate and knowledge and skills, spread in the country, so that you would have had a more industrious population today, thanks to these institutions. But Saria, we went through the whole Jawara period. This was not achieved. All right. And today we see these things being transformed into full-fledged universities. And as Edward Francis Moy, Center for Rights and Justice, I want to inform you that we have written both to the Minister for Higher Education and the Minister for Basic and Secondary Education, highlighting the importance of education and the need for these universities and basic secondary education to be reviewed, structured, positioned in a way that we don't repeat the mistake of Nigeria and Ghana and Senegal, where across the Africa, you have universities that are science and technology universities, but we still have to depend on foreign expertise, foreign products. When there is a pandemic, our scientists don't produce vaccines. We depend on foreign, Western, institutions and scientists to produce vaccines. So the African university therefore has to make a transformation. That we are not just going to create a university of science and technology in the Gambia, but to say 5 years, 10 years after the creation of that university, Gambians would begin to produce half scientists, technologists, inventors, discoverers, physicians who will be producing medicines, who will be producing, crop types, varieties of crops, who will be changing our agriculture and things like that. If you don't have that, then it is not different from Ghana's University of Science and Technology, or Nigeria, or Congo, or Senegal, and so on and so forth. So that is one. Now, if you come to the area of agriculture as well, Sarian, there is no area of agriculture that since in Jawara's time, they did not have a project about it, and up to Jammeh's time, whether it's land reclamation, crop yields, fertilizer, and all of those things. But today, look at the agriculture sector. All right. I remember must be around 2011-12 when I had decided not to attend a government meeting again because I just this disappointment. UNDP, there was a report to be launched, least developed countries report by the government and UNDP. I was at Tango, and the director asked me to go and represent Tango. I said, no, I don't want to go to government meetings again. All right. But insisted, I said, okay, I will go. But I had vowed, when I go, I will not say a word. And when I went at the UN house in Cape Point, I sat at the back of the hall. And I was listening, they released the report and the conversation from ministers, permanent secretaries, directors, they were all there. And Saria, in the conversation, constantly, I hear this lamentation. Farmers need high-yielding crops. Farmers need implements, lack of storage facilities, lack of marketing opportunities, and so on and so forth. And I was sitting at the back. At the end of the day, the UN resident representative, said, okay, any last comments, anything born in anyone's chest? I couldn't bear it. I raised my hand. And then I said, I will not say anything here, but listening to the conversation, I feel if I say something that's going to be a problem. I said, so I sat here, you are government officials, and you are talking about lamenting the situation in agriculture. And I've been wondering, therefore, who should solve it? Who should solve it? Because you are the people appointed as ministers, as permanent secretaries, as project directors. You have, LADEP, FASDEP, JEEP. I mean, they are all kind of there. You created Jahani Pachar. You are supposed to provide those. You farmers should be crying and you wipe their tears, but you sit here and crying. And look, I'm from Boraba. Musa is from Kauru. I know our women are in the gardens. All right. Just again, last week, I was in that conversation with local councillors. I was telling local councillors about human security and talking about Banjulindin Garden. You go there, it's more or less dead. Bakau Garden is more or less dead. But across our country, our women are going into gardens. The only place I have gone in this country and saw a storage facility for garden produce is Nomi Lamin, but built by the civil society. An NGO built it there. But all the while, 60 years, this government, like all the other governments, we should have been seeing in every market government, by central government or local government, constructed storage facilities functioning well. Marketing opportunities created, transportation created for farmers, small-scale holders. I mean, I gave these councils an example. I said I studied in the Netherlands. I did not see massive plantations, one big farmer. I saw small, holder farmers, families. And they are getting proper subsidies from their government, proper support, to the point that Netherlands is the second highest producer of food in the world. And Gambia, we have a river that, passed the country in two halves, in the middle. All right? So The highest point is 80 kilometers. Around Basakoina, from the river to the border is just like 10 kilometers. So irrigation, the river Gambia could have been used for food, transportation, sports, tourism, and so on. But we sit here with all these projects. So, therefore, Sarian, to conclude this, it's good they are building something, let's say the Farato Health Center you are saying. But again, don't forget, we had the AFPRC formerly, Farafenyo Hospital built. It was an innovation. Biam Hospital was an innovation.
Yeah.
And so many innovations in the time. So my point is therefore, the efficiency. You have a governance problem. And until the government addresses the governance problem, you can build multiple projects. Go to Ministry of Agriculture. Right now, they have a massive building opposite Gambia High School called Projects Implementation Headquarters. All right? And now 3% of our food is imported in this country. When we have the opportunity to support small-scale holder farmers, not to sit and politicize tractors and donkeys and so on, but serious work. So that, the Ministry of Agriculture, NARI, the Department of Agriculture are made to work to produce results. And that is the governance issue. We are not creating results. All right? So,
you're creating results that needs to be solved. Pap Samba, Madi said, we are not producing results. It comes down to implementation. Pap Samba, what do you say to Madi?
Madi, I listened to you, and I've been reading some of the comments, especially from those who support the government. Because in their view, there is nothing that Adama Barrow does. If you look at the budget, the current budget, we'll be hearing the budget speech, I think tomorrow also at the National Assembly. GLF, which is Gambia Local Funds, $43,490,961,954. That is what is earmarked. If you look at that, 90.1% of it is for recurrent. The cars that they drive, the patrols that get into it, their housing allowance, their rent allowance for people who even have cars, including the speaker, and all this nonsense that they give people. And only 9.8% is earmarked for development. So to me, budgets tell you what is important to a government. But they tell you, oh, no, we're going to have something else that's coming on. We're going to have loans, we're going to have grants. Loans, they said it will be about 2.5% of the budget, which will be $1,456,160,691. They said that is going to be loans. And then grants, which are not guaranteed. This is nothing, the loans and the grants are not guaranteed anyway. They're expecting $14,413,971,771. This is the budget that is written. And to my estimation, the budget that is written by C.D. Keita, our friend, is not one that is written for the people, but written for the elite. And all you have to do is dig into the numbers. And this way you'll find over 700 million earmarked for travels only. When a Minister of Youth and Sports, 65% of the population, 146 million. The Minister of Finance, nobody can give you the justification for allocating $2.2 billion to the Ministry of Finance alone. Centralized services, 1.8 billion. And you go to agriculture, 1.7 billion was allocated for agriculture. Only 3.8% of that is allocated for development. And you wonder why our agriculture continues to denigrate. Because they are not writing a budget that is developing the country. They are writing a budget that is fattening the pockets of our people. Madi, what say you?
Thank you. I'm sure
alley-oop. It's like a alley-oop. That pass alley-oop that pass me. Just to slam dunk it.
I'm reading the comments. Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure you've heard me say this many times that the Gambia government is a fraud. And that is not the Barrow government per se, but the Gambian state from independence to date is a fraud that exists for the people who work in that state, particularly who are at the highest level. That is what is in the constitution, that is what is in the laws, in the practices. One just needs to go and read the laws of the Gambia to look at the powers, the benefits, the incentives, which come in different forms, allowances and so on, the immunities that are given to state officials. These are a protected species, by law. And then, the budget, which is, of course, they say the second highest or most important law after the constitution. As you said, what is in the budget? The large chunk, the larger part of that budget is going to public officials as salaries, as allowances, as pension, as gratuity, as vehicles, travels, lubricants, furniture, and many others that we just don't see, and which they also do in total contravention of the law. So that even if it's not in the law, they are enjoying benefits that they are not supposed to do. So this budget, like every other budget before it, since independence, it is the same practice. It is on the same path. All right. And this is why our budgets don't make a difference in the lives of the country, but they make difference in the lives of the officials. Right now, in this budget, you would see how all National Assembly members' salary have been increased by 50%. On what justification? You don't know. Meantime, those National Assembly members, they are paying themselves salaries and allowances in the National Assembly Salaries and Pensions Act. That was set in 1997, but they are receiving salaries that is, 100 times more. So that what that means is that illegally receiving salaries and allowances, that is illegal, because their salaries should be set by the law according to the Constitution, Section 95. All right, and that law is there, but that law is what the salary stated in that law and what they are receiving today are far apart. And this budget is going to fund that. All right, and as you said, one of the things that always jacks me about our budget is this thing called centralized services. Like what services have you centralized? Because centralized services, let's say water, electricity, internet, is it because that would be some service that all offices would join so that we pay from there. But if you go to Quadrangle, every ministry has its meter. All right, every ministry has its router internet. They are not sharing internet. Every ministry has its vehicles. They are not sharing a pool of vehicles like Minister of Finance, Minister of Youth, Minister of Local Government, Minister of Health. They are all in Quadrangle, but they are not sharing any services such that that budget line, centralized services, will go and pay for that. So what is centralized services? Seriously speaking, what services are you talking about?
Abuse.
So but abuse. It is just there for abuse to be plundered, and this is how our state has been functioning, has been surviving, has been living on the backs of Gambians when basic, goods and services that we should have, you don't have. If they provide it, is poor quality and then expensive and erratic. So I'm not excited about this budget. It just confirms for me my original point ever since. I cannot remember since when I first started writing about the Gambia budget. When I look at my Facebook memories, I've seen how I have continuously lamented about this budget under the various finance ministers over the past 20 years or so. All right, but it is the same practice, and this is something that we need to deal with. Unfortunately, not many people are okay with budgets or interested in budgets. I remember there was a time when budget speech is coming, the interest is on how much salaries, how much percentage are being increased salaries.
I know.
And that was the excitement about, and because budget education, budget information wasn't something very popular with Gambians, even among the elite, whether in civil society and so on. But I think Gambians must now come to realize that the budget practically is the operationalizing tool for our constitution, which carries our rights and needs as citizens of this country, which means practically our life and future is determined by the budget. So if the budget is not prioritizing the life and the future of Gambians, their livelihood, then certainly the situation remains, the precarious situation in which this country is remains. And the disappointing part is how the parliament continuously fails Gambians, because ultimately they have the authority to distribute national resources through the budget. And we lament these things, but at the same time they'll come and tell us, yes, from the office of the president we have cut 200 million. No, that is insignificant. All right.
And Madi, you touched on something here, that is the National Assembly. Like I said, I want to turn this into a conversation. I don't blame the president for the budget. I blame the National Assembly, because the president can only tell us what he wishes to have. It is the National Assembly that has the only authority to say. Because let's look at this area of the budget, the president's office. You talk about allowances. What most people do not know is allowances for government officials is not taxed. It's free money. They don't pay taxes on their allowances. And this is why if you look at the president's office allocation, for basic salary, they are allocated $93,752,171 for basic salary. Then you go to allowances, and I've never seen this anywhere in the world. Their allowances are $103,833,735. Tell me anywhere in the world where allowances that are paid is more than the salary that is paid to people. And then, of course, travel, I don't even want to go there. The president's office alone, they have allocated over $100 million for travels. To me, Madi, the lack of education of our people, because the budget, like you said, is the most important legislation after the Constitution. And one would have thought, at least people would have paid particular attention to it, because it's the thing that the lifeblood of our country. Yeah. But these allocations, to me, does it show a government or a National Assembly that is proactive, or even one that is patriotic?
So Coach, you see, as it is in the national, the president's office is the same in the National Assembly or the judiciary and across government. The National Assembly has minimum 7 different types of allowances. All right. And in some cases, for some officials, it may even go up to 15 or 20 different types of allowances. And I have argued that allowances should be abolished. All right. Public officials should receive a salary, full stop. There should be no allowances, because they don't make sense. And they are very prone to abuse. One, not just because of they don't pay tax on the allowances, which in itself is illegal, because according to the Income and Sales VAT Tax Act, all monetary income should be taxed by any individual, except exempted by the Constitution, which is in the case of the president. So, but deliberately, and they don't pay tax. Jared doesn't collect tax on their the allowances. All right. But apart from that, they go to therefore create all sorts of allowances. You go and check in the Constitution, in the budget. You look at the names, the titles of the allowances. It's outrageous. So for me, allowances are illegal as far as I'm concerned. They are unethical, all right, and they are prone to abuse. And then and illegal also in the sense that they are not being taxed when they should have been taxed. So that it is a way of corruption, legalized corruption, where you put $5 as salary and then put $20 as allowances. And so every office goes to create this kind of allowances. So for me, public officers deserve a decent salary. All right. And salary is salary. Salary is why you get your food, you get your housing, you get your medical bills, you take care of yourself and your family, you build your future. That is what a salary is. And so for me, we should have a salary as public officials and nothing else. All right. But transport allowance, telephone allowance, dress allowance, maid allowance, I mean, professional allowance, risk allowance. These are all for me, schemes to just cut public wealth and give it to themselves. And this has been the culture in this country, not just today. 1997, if you look at the National Assembly Pensions Act, in 1997, National Assembly members had only 3 allowances, responsibility allowance, constituency allowance, and another allowance, 3 allowances. 1997.
Sitting allowance?
Yeah?
Is it the sitting allowance?
No. Sitting allowance wasn't even there. I may come to my mind as we speak. I mean, so they have only 3 allowances, all right, at that time, 1997, when that law was being created. By the time we get to today, 2025, you look at the budget estimates, they have increased these allowances. I think it must be close to 20 now. All sorts of allowances. So, for example, you take National Assembly, he said sitting allowance. Why should we pay National Assembly members sitting allowance? All right?
They hide to sit.
Because the job of the National Assembly is to sit in committee and sit in plenary.
Yes.
We cannot pay you to sit in committee and pay you to sit in plenary and then pay you a salary. Now, what is the purpose of the salary? The very nature is like paying a surgeon operation room salary, allowance. Paying a teacher blackboard allowance, for example, or paying a driver for steering wheel allowance. If you're a driver, you have to sit in the vehicle and hold the steering wheel. We cannot pay you allowance for that. We'll pay you a salary for being a driver. But we have created all these salaries. Imagine a professional allowance just because you have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD degree, you get a certain allowance for that. They call it professional allowance. What is the justification for that, morally and legally? It is not there. So this culture of allowances highlights the corruption in the state, and as I said, how the state has been transformed to personalize public wealth for the few people who work in the state, particularly at the highest level, because there are some people who will never get a professional allowance because they don't have a degree. They don't have a degree. Many people will not get a sitting allowance because they are not National Assembly members. You will not get a transport allowance. Maybe there are many people will get it, but still, why should we give you a transport allowance? You pay a salary, pay your transport and come to work, or buy your own vehicle. Which means also, for me, a lot of the other incentives public officials have should be scrapped. Like vehicles, for example.
So Madi, let me ask you this question. It looks like every year we come here, Pasamba will be rattling these numbers day in, day out. This person is paying allowance this person is allocating this amount of money to this. My question to you, and you've also said that the same system has been happening going all the way back to independence.
Yeah.
So clearly there's a lot more to it than just President Barrow or Jammeh or Jawara. There are National Assembly members that basically will sign up to it. If Madi were to be elected tomorrow as president, how are you going to change the system? How would you really change it? And I want specifics because you have to understand. I'm going to cite 2 examples. We have a lot of clinics and hospitals in Kaur, in Njau, in Sutukonding and Sutukoba, and there are expectations. We all live in the West. When I walk into a clinic, they call them urgent clinic, urgent care. By the time I leave, I might ended up saddling myself with a $4,000 or $5,000 health care bill. In the Gambia, there is an expectation that when you walk into Serekunda clinic, most likely all you're paying is $25. And there's an expectation that people have to work for that clinic in Buyam, clinic in Farafenye. If you were to become president, what would be your approach to change the system? Because we've been complaining a lot. And it looks like a good number of people are basically doing the same thing. Maybe there's a lot more to it. How would you approach to change it, Madi?
So I will, of course, be guided by the fact that this is a republic which belongs to Gambian people, including myself, and which created a state as an instrument for one purpose, to protect and fulfill the rights of Gambians. That's the purpose of the state. And the performance of that function, that protection and fulfillment of rights, is translated into the various goods and services that are delivered to the people. Let's say healthcare, to protect their right to health, their education, right to health, education, food, housing, clean environment, security, and so on and so forth. Now, so that my change starts first and foremost by that understanding, by that realization and the commitment to the achievement of that understanding, of that realization as my objective. What would that require, therefore, would be to look at the laws and institutions of the Gambia in terms of how they are set up, to ensure that they are really based on strong professional and ethical foundations. So we can take one example, let's say healthcare, since you mentioned it. All right. Now, you said $25. Yes. There are many ways we can fund healthcare, but I can guarantee you that in the health sector alone, millions have been squandered. So that the issue is not the $5, but at the end of the day, how much has been invested in Seneconda Hospital or Fatoto Health Center across the country to ensure quality healthcare is provided to the people, even if they are paying $25. All right. Because that $25 itself, as I said, a lot of it is squandered. That has been collected. We saw the report, the audit report of the Edward Francis Teaching Hospital. All right. So in the health sector alone, all right, it is to ensure that our budget, we sit down to say, what do we need? And again, Musa, this is a matter of national security. All right. What do we need? Because thinking, if the whole world should close today, can we guarantee the functioning of our health facilities and services, the provision of essential drugs for the next 3 months? So that would be guiding me to say, look, in terms of our health sector, how do we build the capacities? And someone can say, this government is doing that. Jame the same thing. Jawara the same thing. But at the end of the day, you go to many specialist areas in the Gambia, they will say it is not there. The expertise is not there, or the equipment is not there. Right. So for me, therefore, it is for us to put the health system on the table and look at the basics, the needs.
I don't want to cut you. I don't want to cut you. Let me rephrase it this way. It's 2027 January. You are going to inherit, you are elected as president, and you're going to inherit a budget that has already been passed. How would you approach it? I mean, you're going to inherit the budget. Whatever amount of money that was allocated to the office of the president, already, education, higher education, it's there. Now Madi is the president. You inheriting this budget. My question is, how would you approach it to make sure that, you know what, this hasn't worked for the past 60 years, and I'm not going to be following this legacy. Something has to be done. How would you do it?
Yeah, so I'll do something that, to be fair to them, the Barrow government did in 2017. They revised the budget. When they came, I don't know whether you recall that.
Yes, budget revision. Yes.
So it is important to revise the budget. Where they failed is that they revised the figures, but they did not stop a lot of the lines. All right. So that if the budget was $100, you revise it to $50, but the lines still exist and they continued with those. So, qualitatively, you've not made any change. And we see over time, they've gone back to the same thing. So what I would do, therefore, I'll revise the budget, but also to suspend a number of lines to really make proper savings and now look at how do we invest those things back into productive sectors, into social services, into provision of facilities, and so on. All right. So, centralized services, I'm going to cut that. I'm going to cut on allowances. Vehicle purchases. All right. Those things are going to be cut completely. All right. Travels. All right. So there are many areas that need to be scrapped out of our budget, so that waste stops. Because we talk about corruption, and which is very big in the government, but what is even bigger is waste. Waste. Yes. I mean, going to a meeting, you have not stolen anybody. You paid, you got the right payment. I mean, per diem payment. You bought the right ticket, air ticket. I mean, go to this meeting and come. But at the end of the day, that meeting has not added any value to you personally as a professional, to your office, and to the national development. So that is waste of money. Now, you buy 2 vehicles for a minister. You buy a vehicle for a director, assistant director, project manager. I mean, all of that is waste. Why? So that for me, a ministry, we'll have to sit down to say, look, who should have a vehicle in a ministry other than the minister? I don't think a permanent secretary should have a personal vehicle, or a director should have a vehicle, or anyone for that matter. There should be only one official vehicle.
The minister will have a vehicle. So you're saying a minister would have a vehicle, but a permanent secretary will not have a vehicle?
No. There will be a pool for a certain number of vehicles, all right, as a pool. If the permanent secretary needs to go for a meeting, they go for they take from the pool and go to meeting and come back, all right? So the only person that will have a standing vehicle for him would be the minister. But and that minister, only one vehicle. Why would you have 2 vehicles for a permanent secretary? I mean, for a minister? That also is waste. And then also, what type of vehicle? Why would you buy a $12 million vehicle for a minister? What is the value of that? So that has to stop, so that we go for the most reasonable vehicle. Because what we need is transportation from point A to point B. What vehicle can do that efficiently, effectively, without incurring unnecessary cost? So the waste in government is immense. Not to mention the corruption, just the waste, how we are spending things. Yeah. So I'm going to cut that as well. So if I'm president January 2027, no, I mean, it will be a fundamental change.
Total overhaul.
Honestly. Total overhaul.
And I believe you.
Thank you.
So looking at the options that we have, because I mean, here we're having elections in 2026. And you've been listening to some of these opposition party leaders. Knowing what you know, do you think a change in Barrow is out and replaced by something else will bring about this total overhaul or fundamental change that you looking at based on your experience?
No. I don't want to go into the specifics in terms of the political parties or political
No.
So
I'm just saying generally.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I have heard the various political aspirants, presidential aspirants and political parties. And I must say, yes, I hear someone makes a very important point in terms of system change, because I'm looking at everything in terms of system change, that overhaul and, the building of a new society. But by and large, I am not yet convinced, of any candidate or party or who has expressed the kind of overhaul that satisfies me. All right. Either in terms of the program, the agenda they have set, or in terms of how even such a party is being run, or such an individual is running that party, because that also matters. So that if we said Musa Jeng comes with ABC party, all right, and you can come up with brilliant alias, but at the end of the day also, is Musa Jeng himself running ABC party, in a manner that speaks to transparency, accountability, efficiency, system change. And because I care about that as well, who is this person, or who is this party in terms of what they are proposing. So so when I look around the space and the actors, yes, I would have here and there, satisfaction or inspiration in terms of what somebody is saying or a party is proposing and so on. But I think by and large, maybe we are not yet in December 2026, and so a lot of things have to come out.
Something can
All right.
happen. Yeah.
So maybe by the time we get there, yeah. But as an actor myself in the civil society and as an organization that we have, we are developing Agenda 2026. All right. That what should be the agenda for 2026? You know, because I think the next government should implement system change, you know, and it should be drastic, it should be radical, and you know, within the shortest possible time, you know, so that we have a third republic. And what does that agenda entail? We've sent snippets of it so far, but we are developing a comprehensive list, which we would want to see, you know, I mean, other civil society adopt it, I mean, engage with it, improve it, but also something that we can use to engage with the political parties, political actors, to whether it will make sense to them, so that, you know, we engage. Because Musa, since independence, politicians have always come with their agenda, with their idea, they've made promises and so on. And we voted and out politicians. But by and large, our situation remains the same, even worse. Poverty has increased in the Gambia according to government figures.
So, can you end up, Edward Francis Small Center, will you end up endorsing a party or a candidate saying, you know what, based on the system change that we're looking for, we believe we can align ourselves with this party or individual? Are you going to do that?
In principle, yeah, in principle, that is there. All right. Because we believe civil society is not secondary, it's not on the periphery. We are a central stakeholder in the life of this republic, like political parties, like government, like media, and anyone. And who goes to State House equally concerns us, seriously. And so, and we have told civil society members in the Gambia to look at that issue than just be civil society and think that your job only is election observation and workshops and, you know, civic education and so on. But we should also determine who goes to State House. Because ultimately, the policy and legal institutional framework and how that functions in this country is the responsibility of whoever is in charge of the executive. And so who is going to be head of that executive should concern us. So yes, in principle, we may get to a point to say we endorse this particular candidate because of this agenda for 2026. All right. Of course, there's a threshold that that candidate would have to meet. So we may not, in the end, also endorse anyone, but highlight what should be the agenda for 2026 for each and for any political candidate, so to speak. So in principle, it is there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Pop Samba.
Yeah, Madi, I'm going to pivot a little bit. We've seen what has happened recently. For too long, we've been asking for accountability in terms of Jammeh era crimes. We saw recently Jammeh, you know, a lot of audios. In fact, to me, in fact, one of them was incitement, talking about, oh, I'm going to come, and when I come, don't run. I'll show you who owns the country. That man is not coming for peace. He's not coming to live as a former president. Now, we had yesterday the arrest of Sana Manjang, one of the most brutal people, according to testimonies at the TRRC. Because I go and listen to these things over and over again. And sometimes I have to forward what I'm listening to because I don't want to even hear the details. Now, there are rumors all over the place that they were in Casamas training. For what? Who knows? And I am of the view that whatever they were doing was done in concert with and at the behest of Yaya AJJ Jammeh. What does this thing, do you think, what lessons should be drawn from what we are seeing with this whole thing about Jammeh's coming and this whole nonsense that we're going through now, to the extent of now arresting Sana Manjang? If you listen to Saria talking about here, even reach out to the government to tell them that there is evidence that this man comes in and out of the country, to the extent of even, you know, making another baby with the wife. I'm in exile, my wife is pregnant, and I'm supposed to be the father. It's either my wife was cheating or I was sneaking into the country. But what does this tell you about the seriousness of doing what is required of the government in terms of the TRRC recommendations, or how seriously do you think they take the security of our country? Is Madi
mixed
hearing?
feelings. I'm hearing you. I hope you hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, mixed feelings. But first of all, I want to commend our security forces and the Senegalese counterparts for apprehending these two notorious killers. I think we'll have to give that to them that this has happened. But I have said, that there was every opportunity to have captured all the junglers well before today. If the necessary political will was being exercised, because we had friendly relations with Guinea-Bissau ever since. We had friendly relations with Senegal ever since. And if the necessary political will was there to engage these, other countries with seriousness, I'm sure necessary resources would have been invested so that we would have dealt with this matter. So whilst I thank and commend our security with the Senegalese for this, the other feeling is the fact that we are still in anxiety 9 years after Jammeh left. We are in doubt and even in fear, because when you hear, I've heard of different accounts about Sana Manjang. One, they are training, and I've even seen somewhere they've outlined their plan how to invade the Gambia and take over the Gambia. And I have my doubts about that. But also, I've seen another report talking about how they were practically busy with livelihoods, trying to engage in bakery and other kinds of work to survive. So that it raised the question: really, was their capacity, even intention, for Sanamanjang, and co to invade the Gambia? But also asking, why did Jammeh say November and these people are captured in November? Is there any correlation? That seriously Jammeh had understood, and they understood each other, that this is the plan. So that is why Jammeh came out to say in November I'll be in this office, in this country, such that when he came to say no, a day or two after we saw Sana Manjang also arrested, what did Jammeh know? All right. But what does our government know as well, and the Senegalese? So for me, what is expected of government right now is to be as transparent as possible about this Sana Manjang case. Were they in a training camp in Casamas or Guinea-Bissau? Were they doing bakery and charcoal selling? Can they get pictures of their location so that, because they owe that to the victims and to the Gambian citizens to give us as much information as possible for us to know the life, the intentions, the activities of these people. So, and that is very important for peace building, for conflict prevention, and to, stabilize this country, that you give all information, this here is the picture of the bush, in which they were at. This is the bakery that they were working at. This is the house they lived. I'm sorry, the Senegalese would have the pictures. So governments need to see that, because that also puts any other people with sinister motives like them under pressure to realize that our plans are not going to work. And I hope government understands the value of communications in that regard and come out in full. But finally, to say, Coach, it is sad. Because at the end of the day, we got to this point because Mr. Barrow failed to give the necessary commitment to transitional justice that he himself launched in 2017 in the creation of the TRRC, in the creation of the Janet Commission, and so on, to make sure that at the end of the day, never again is never again. That Gambians have decided against autocracy and corruption and abuse. So that failure to uphold that transitional justice objective with the seriousness it deserves, and then to go back to reinstate, resuscitate enablers, including Jammeh himself, I think is the greatest threat to this country and the greatest disservice that Barrow has committed against this country, and which is why 9 years we are in the situation in which we are. If the government had, with seriousness and commitment, focus on the recommendations of the TRRC, which they accepted in their own white paper, and put the necessary commitment there. There are so many recommendations in the TRRC, just as in the Journal Commission report, that bear no cost, that bear at all no cost, all right, that they could have done, but also that bear cost that is affordable, that they could have done, all right. And for all of that, they refuse to do so, but rather to go and empower enablers of that regime. You look at our National Assembly today, headed by nobody other than Fabakary Tombong and Sirin Jai. You look inside the cabinet, across the public institutions. I mean, you look at the alliance that Barrow would go and establish with APRC. I mean, I think that is the greatest threat to this country, and which is why we are in this situation in which we are. Because until now, I mean, there's sort of uncertainty. Yes, Jammeh said November, but he did not come. Has Jammeh any connection with what they say Sanamanya and Co were planning? Yes. But also, I mean, what is Jammeh's own plans, if any? All right. I mean, he said November, okay, but there's December, there's January, there's February. We release next time and say, okay, I'll now come in March. Will he really come? And this is why, as an organization, Edward Francis Small Center, we issued a statement to suggest to the president to establish a presidential committee on the return of Jammeh. If Jammeh happens to appear at the Yundum International Airport tonight, how would the government handle him? Knowing what is happening, knowing what Gambia is like, what is going to happen right now? Who's going to arrest him? Where will you detain him? How long will you detain him? How are you going to deal with any reaction that may come from his supporters, from victims, from the rest of citizens? So many questions, and for me, a responsible government, you plan ahead. You have to have foresight. You have to have a vision, so that a mechanism should be put in place to say, how do we deal with this? Right now, they have Sanamanya and this Nuha Baji. They said they'll come to the Gambia. When they come to the Gambia, what are you going to do? Are you going to treat them like the case of Borakoli? That they are military who are absconded, and then so you put them under military custody and military law would apply, all right? Or are you going to try them like how you tried, Yankuba Toure, all right? Yeah. But on the other hand, also, you said you are building a special tribunal, which is not yet in place. So how long can the military keep them, until this tribunal operates? So many questions, which all the more reason for me is why Barrow, the Minister of Justice, Daura Jallow, should advise the president right now to say, look, let us put up a legal security, a technical committee to deal with the issue of Jammeh and the junglers. Should they come now? What is required? Do we need a new legislation, for example, in preparation for the before the special tribunal happens? All right, what actions would we take? I had said earlier that even in the case of Jammeh, there is Section 69 of our Constitution about prosecutions, immunity from prosecution for former presidents. All right, and I have raised this thing. Some people said, no, man, that's not a problem. When we have the special tribunal, that is an internationalized court. That court will deal with it. I say yes, but this internationalized court is also made by Gambian law. These components also, Gambian law is there because there is a special prosecutor's office act. There's a special accountability mechanism. These are Gambian laws made in Gambian parliament. And the court is in the Gambia. So yeah, it is an internationalized court, but it's located in the Gambia, not in China. So therefore, the Special Prosecutor's Office Act is made on the powers of the 1997 Constitution. And so, any disturbance before Jammeh hangs on to Section 69, why don't we remove that immunity today? What harm will it cause? So I think there are a lot of preparations our government should do, and not to sit down and react to things as they happen. So unfortunately, that's the style of Gambia.
Yeah, what I wanted to because we're focusing on Barrow and the government. Of course, there is no denying here of the roles that they play to make this guy continue to be relevant. But I listened to a lot of opposition leaders, and I became very wary.
So, Pasamba, sorry, before I leave, I just want to let people know that we're getting close to where we would put the link, and then people will come and give their reaction or comments. Like we said, we're going to be doing the last hour of the show.
Yes.
So
what I want to say quickly before you do that, Musa, is I've listened to a lot of opposition leaders being questioned. And the answers that I hear or heard about Jammeh and this Jammeh coming were mostly nuanced. Because I believe a lot of them were looking at the politics of it, the political, or the expediency. Or we don't want to say anything that will alienate his potential supporters who may come and vote for me. In fact, I think the most direct thing that I heard from politicians, apart from the NPP guys, because at least Demba Sabali was always very blunt in his statement. He was not mincing words. It was Sidia Jata who had an interview, I think it was Gambia Talent, and say, you know what, it's Jammeh who should be scared of coming to the Gambia and not the other way around. And he cannot just come and go to his house. He must answer for the crimes that he committed. That's what he said. But everyone that I listened to was talking about, it's his right to come to the country. If I were him, we'll negotiate with the government. So you didn't get a direct answer. It's like, to me, even if they were in power and Jammeh were to come here, there is a great chance we'll just go back to the Masla reality and say, you know what, let's forgive and forget. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, even the government, that is what they have said. Largely, he has a right to come. He's a Gambian, which is a meaningless statement because that's not a conversation. Jammeh suddenly is a citizen, has a right to return to this country. But we have to be definitive. Yes, we have to be definitive. Because we've lived the history and experience, and the necessary frameworks in place are very clear as to what should happen to Jammeh. And I think it is important that both the government and the opposition speak one language unequivocally and very strongly about accountability. Yes. Otherwise, I think they are all committing disservice to this country. This is non-negotiable, and which is not peculiar to the Gambia. All right. I mean, just now we saw Sarkozy sent to jail. So former presidents can be tried for violating laws, especially, abusing human rights. We saw, the president of Brazil, Bolsonaro, is sent to some, number of years in jail, for, attempting to overthrow the government, And so this is nothing strange. And I don't think any demand or desire for votes should make any politician, therefore, to toy with something that essentially is the soul of this country, is linked to the destiny of this country. The issue of Jammeh, I think all political actors should be on the same page. But yeah, as you said, there's a lot of nuance, in many politicians in the way they respond to this. And I think that is really unfortunate.
Thank you.
Brother Marong. And guys, like I said, the link is up. If you want to call in, we want to keep it civil. You can either ask a question or you can make a statement. We're going to keep it short, 2, 3, 4 minutes. And again, we want to make it interactive and widen the conversation so that all of us are involved. Respectful civility, Go ahead, Brother Marong.
Yeah. So Madi, I listened to you on your take on the Jammeh, and I heard you said, for public consumption, they need to release pictures where they were their hideout was, and how they were captured. What do you think that would, do? Because this is an active investigation, and obviously there is a bilateral collaboration across borders, and obviously there is more folks out there who needs to be captured. What do you think at this point? Do you think it will be a good And what does that do overall for releasing all those information to the public for consumption?
Yeah, so I was saying the good things it would do in terms of generating that public trust and confidence in the process that led to this, and of course enhancing national security stability. Because there are still questions if you scan through social media and in conversations around, you hear a lot of doubts, a lot of questions, and a lot of speculations, narratives going around. So for me, the government, given the importance of this issue, to the greatest extent possible, should provide as much information which would not undermine investigations. We don't need to know, here the interrogation they're having with Sana Manjang, but already captured, and to say this is the house that he was at, or this is the forest that we are hiding at, for me does not undermine investigations. Rather, the more information you have to Gambians, you also make Gambians trust government, and allay fears, and strengthen their confidence that yes, we have passed or crossed this chapter, towards something that is meaningful. And I think as well, they may have collaborators and so on. I think that also sends a very clear message, because I'm saying this also recalling, the case of Al Chapo, when he was caught in America, all right, and we saw his transportation from Mexico all the way down to California, and the DEA officials and so on. But also even, his first escape in 2019, how he dug a tunnel in a prison and, escaped. And all of that also tells you and me as citizens to say what efforts have been going on, what our government knows. And for me as a citizen, that gives me a lot of relief, a lot of confidence, a lot of stability to realize that some serious people are dealing with some serious issues and under control. So yes, that is the value. But as I said, balanced in the fact that I'm sure they should know that as security people, what also cannot be provided as to not to undermine, jeopardize, or compromise investigations, and as it is not just Sana, but I'm sure they are pursuing others as well, so that you don't create any scenario where you may empower, give opportunity to those people to go a step further. So that's how I see it. But until now, the pictures we've seen, I don't know whether they are from Gambian security or Senegalese security. All right, but I want to see. And again, is Sana in Ziguinchor or in Dakar or in Bignona, or because government said he is coming, they'll be bringing him to the Gambia. All right, and full stop. All right, the whole of today, no update is given. I hope some update will be given tomorrow as to what is happening. All right, but is he in a military barracks or in a police cell? All right, so I think there's a lot of information that, for me, it is important government provides, which will be in its own interests. It will benefit government itself probably more than anyone else.
I agree, but at this point, I think I would give the government pass. It's a need to know basis. It's a high level target. Okay. They went and pursued them and got them. And I think the government should come in and face reporters and say, yes, at this point, they are captured, and they are being detained by the Senegalese armed forces, gendarmerie, whatever. And there is a collaboration between the Gambian security outfit and Senegalese to interrogate and get more information as that becomes available. We will provide to the citizens as need to know basis. But I did think right now there's some risk, because if you heard, there's a Suleiman Sambu. He's notorious as Sana. I know Sana personally, because he came from the same area in Brikama, and Saul is there too. And those are high level targets. They've been mentioned, advisory mentioned at TRRC, and until and unless they capture all of them, and they are within the same vicinity, I think, feeding the population with information is very critical. It helps also make people at ease, because I have a belief that Jammeh was not swearing like I'm gonna come Billah Tala. He was not bluffing. I really thought there was something sinister, and folks gathering in Kanila, in descending there and gathering. I really think the government could have done better. They could have pushed hard and say, you know what, this compound is being seized. You guys are not allowed to come out here, and kind of build some type of pasture. Because if you build deterrence, and that kind of dispel this perception that you are weak. And as the president went on the tour, Demba Sabari gave his own spin, but I think, pasture wise, I think that was lacking, and I think I blame them for that up to this point. I think they should not have let anyone around the compound. They should have built a checkpoint. They should have built something out there to say, I am in charge. We're not going to allow this. But it is what it is. But kudos. They did what they're supposed to do. And today, the bad boy is in the net. And that is really, really, important. And I would say kudos to the entire outfit, Senegal, Guinea-Bissau. It takes a lot to collect intelligence and to get to where they need to be.
Kudos to the security apparatus, according to the good sailor from Vancouver. Hey, my man, Matar, welcome to the 40 People by the People. You've always been commenting, my brother. Now we want to bring you live and direct. What's up? What do you have for us, my man?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm super excited here for this opportunity, but I came in for my brother Madi to just highlight some of the great things that he's been doing. And I know we've been tough on you here today, Madi, but we love you, man. We love what you stand for, what you represent. And not just that.
I love you.
And how you put people first, right? In terms of the Gambia and for some of us that are out here in the diaspora, we don't have that opportunity to get our boots on the ground and get out there and do the work that you do. And information is priceless, right? So when we get this information, it helps us make informed decisions and stand behind causes that make sense. But my brother Musa, so money. The money they disturb na nga baral mo nagjegal mo.
No. Love it, believe me. That's what keeps me going.
Yeah, lega mag sa facial expression. So well, anyway, the money buga wa yan yep yang coach. Ligay bingan natin prophet na way. I mean, like for some of us, lyric like man, this is how we get our information. And also the viewers, like, I know we can't all be flying the same flag, so it's impossible, right? Mm-hmm. But like what you guys do in terms of bringing things that truly matter to the people so we can also participate in the national dialogue, I think it's really important. So I want to thank all of you, and we hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I know you're all three in the United States. Madi, yo lekolo si talkie bi.
So Matar.
Wow.
Let's come here when you're all talking about 2026.
Right.
You have your opinions here and there. Do you think the country deserves continuity, or do you think we need change? And if we're going to need change, how do we bring about that change, according to Matar? How do we go about it?
That's a loaded question,
Yes.
And I appreciate you asking that question. From where I sit, sometimes I'm the one that's pushing the envelope a little bit.
Right.
I think change is always important, right? I think looking at from where we came, I can go back to the times I was in high school. I think Coach and I were in the same high school together at St. Augustine's. And we were all yearning for change. We wanted Jawara out of there because we did not see a Gambia that represented us, the young generation. We were in high school. The future looks very bleak at that time. And, some of us wanted more out of life. We wanted to get an education. We wanted to be better than our parents were. We wanted to do better for our communities. And the enabling environment wasn't there. And, I came here during the Jawara regime, so I'm not dating myself, for those of you who don't know me. But over the last several decades, we've seen what happened with Jammeh.
Mhm.
I was one of those folks that never liked him. I did not think our country deserved a dictatorship. I still believe that.
Mhm.
And I was extremely excited when we ended the dictatorship to relentless work from a lot of the folks that are here today and people back home and around the world. So I think the collaborated effort that went into getting Jammeh out of the Gambia was remarkable, also an example for what is possible when people come together. And you know, the the question around, do we need change, Musa?
Yes.
I um I believe we do. You know, you know, I think Borough needs to be given some recognition for maintaining the relative peace and stability that we've seen in our country, where now some of us, like someone like myself, can go on vacation and not worry about someone tagging you along and not being safe. I know there was many years that I could not, even though I could go, I wasn't able to go because of fear. And but when you look at the economics of what's happening in Gambia, and also as it relates to the environment, the area like West Africa, you know, um, I don't think that, you know, Barrow understands the gravity of like what needs to get done and how to really shift gears and get the country to the next phase. Now, I may be wrong with this assessment because I'm not in the government, neither do I have any expertise in understanding what it takes to transition a nation that came out of dictatorship into a full-fledged democracy. But you can begin to see some of the hallmarks of regression with Barrow as he continues to stay in power. So back to your question, do we need change? I think absolutely yes.
Mm-hmm. How do we go about it?
Yeah. So the question I have, my concern with the change is, what type of change do we need? You know, and who should be leading that change? You know, we have a lot of great examples, and you know, and I know some of you might chastise me for saying what I'm about to say, but you know, someone like Halifa and Cedia, they have stood there. You know, I remember getting my civic education from Halifa when I was in high school, just understanding what a constitution was, what's the function of government, how a government should lead, and what's the responsibility of government is to society.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at the pinnacle, like we're at the pinnacle right now, where we have to do what's right. If not, we will be left behind. And the danger really is Senegal, right? Because if we don't secure the right leadership,
So Matar, ne ko yow tamit sa internet bi mooy loolu.
No, Connecticut la dëkk.
Madi's internet is even better than.
Mane di ngeen ma baal, Mane yaa ngi maa dégg
all the way
léegi.
in Kemuye.
Now we can hear you.
Okay,
Pasama mu ne
all right.
Connecticut nga dëgga.
Wow, Mane maa ngi fii Connecticut. Waaye di ngeen ma baal. It's my house. There's some dead spots in this house here. But so you know, when you look at Halifa and the consistency with which they have stood, you know, to with the Gambian people, and I know there's been a lot of misconceptions or even like insights around the unelectability or inelectability of Halifa into the halls of government. And what I think it's important that we look at like the next phase of change to be transitional in the sense that the leader that comes needs to be someone that can mend the fragmented parts of this country that
Right.
needs it deeply. And we saw that with the TRRC, we saw that with the Johnny Commission, and now we're seeing some of it with the commissions that are like looking at corruption with the local government.
Right.
So, Musa, back to that, I think the change we need here is to get a leader that understands day one what needs to be done, day two what needs to be done, month 5 what needs to be done, first year what needs to get done, and so on and so forth. So that's the change I believe we need. I don't know who that person is. If it's Barrow, I'm not sure. I've seen what he has done, and I think he's actually exhausted his time. If I was advising him, I will certainly advise him to, not seek a re-election. But we do desperately need leadership.
Yeah.
But thank you. I think I said more than I'm supposed to, guys.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the amount of time and man hours you put in tuning to this program, there's absolutely no doubt that you haven't you haven't exploited that time fully, really. But we thank you, and I'm hoping that every Sunday when you tune in, we will be putting out the link, whatever the subject is, and we definitely would like to hear from people like you. Boy Fatty, I have sent you the link through WhatsApp, and I've put it right here.
That Boy Fatty is never going to come here. Boy Fatty will
Always, you
sit there
have
and just say,
views and
"Carry
you
on."
have statements. And you have opinions. Please tune in. But Madi,
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you,
Thank you,
man.
right.
Bro.
Okay, bye-bye.
Madi,
All
there
right,
was
man.
this thing you said you're really into system change. And most people would say when you hear system change, they're associated with Halifa and Sidia. I mean, these are people that most Gambian, if you ask them, if they were given the opportunity to govern, the system change that we are talking about, at least they will attempt to do it. Whether it will work is a whole different story. I mean, what's your take on that? I know you don't want to be pushed into saying about one politician on another, but just a general opinion. Madi.
Yeah, he's muted. Madi Dika. So
I was just giving
the
you
free Wi-Fi has not arrived there yet. So
the free Wi-Fi hasn't arrived yet.
yes.
So Sunwaji Boy Fatty.
Boy Fatty would never call in.
Boy Fatty, Burragal nak bulma ruslo.
He will just sit there and say, carry on. Carry on. I see Syrian asking whether he was going to call. He's not going to call in.
I sent him a text that I'm going to put the link on the platform, and I would expect you to come. And
you cannot defend his government. That is sad.
You know?
But if I supported a government and you have a platform, I would go there and defend them like...
Madi is wrong on whatever he was saying. I mean, at least come and debunk some of the things that you disagree with.
No, he cannot do that because there is nothing to debunk. There is nothing easier than sit there and say, "Oh, I don't agree." Because to boy party, you just have to nakala to the Tajul Baro. Oh, Baro nakala to the
So, Madi, I don't know whether did you hear my question?
No, repeat, please.
Now, I was saying, based on a comment that Matar Sajo made.
Repeat.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Apparently not.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. So, Mane, I don't know whether you heard what Matar Sajo said about the system change associated with Halifa and Sidia. And at some point during this conversation, you did mention that when I asked you the question that what would you do, the total overhaul, you talk about overhauling of the system. Now, I'm sure you've been hearing from Halifa and Sidia and Doi as an entity. Do you think they can bring about the system change that we are talking about or we've been yearning for? Or at least they will attempt to do that. Do you think? And what are the challenges for them having to do something like that?
Yeah, so let me say this upfront. There's a point at one point you talked about endorsement.
Yes, yes. This is not an endorsement.
In principle,
this is
yes, we
general...
endorse. Yeah, and I said so many other things. Yeah, but I mean, let me say also that I believe the DOI program, not just Gambia, but that is a program that Africa needs. If you understand the DOI program, DOI agenda. But of course, this agenda program has to be implemented, certainly, by individuals, by a system, a structure, a government. And, but as a socialist, and as a Pan-Africanist, as someone who understands development and governance, and particularly our history and experience, not just Gambia and Africa, but around the world, I strongly believe that is a program that can transform this country. Now, and certainly, yes, Khalifa and Syria and Doi talks about system change. That's not today. But system change is also what the Barrow Manifesto 2016 promised. And that's what the coalition MOU also promised. If you read it, you realize they're talking about system change. But beyond and above all of that, people come back again to talk about, yes, why is, say, Khalifa not elected or Doi not elected? And sometimes I think people are looking at things from a very mechanical point of view, either overrate or underrate issues, or even Doi and Khalifa and so on. Because much as the Doi program is what people need, it is also for Doi to understand that they have a task for national liberation, more or less. Okay, and this task is not a given. It is more than just merely because there's somebody with integrity that this party program is perfect. At the end of the day, like all the other parties, you want to gain the interests, you want to gain the support of the people to the extent of voting for you. And so in a multi-party democracy, and also as human beings, as a society, issues are not necessarily 1 + 1 is equals to 2, especially social and political issues are not decided by, in that manner. So that it is not to say because a message is right, or this person in Musa's view or in my view, or generally we believe this person, Musa is a person, therefore naturally we should vote for him. All right, the story is more than that. Musa has to do to understand that is not going to be just my selling point, but I also have to realize that Madi or Coach here or Sariang are human beings with their fears, with their concerns, founded or unfounded, with their interests. They belong to, a family, a community. I mean, this is how much they know or don't know, and so on. So that it is not that when people know, then therefore they will do the right thing. People can know what is right and not do it. They can know what is wrong and do it. Because otherwise, why did Jammeh do what things he did? A lot of us smoke, and we know smoking is hazardous, for example. So human behavior, I mean, and I guess somebody like Khalifa, as a sociologist, understands that very well. So that if you live in a society like the Gambia, from a political party like any other party, yes, you may not want to practice, and certainly I would not encourage that, engage in manipulation and, malpractices. But I believe, you can run a very decent politics and still get votes, because now it's a question of leadership and strategy. How do you run this? Right. All the challenges, the complexities, the dynamics in this society.
Yes.
And I think for me, that is the fundamental challenge Doi faces. It is not that, they don't have men and women of integrity. I think, when we talk about it in the Gambia, our minds go first to Doi and Doi leaders, Khalifa or Syria and so on. All right, the message and so on. But then that is not enough to say, therefore, why are people not voting for this, this party? Yeah. Then if you do that, underrating so many factors or ignoring
Yeah.
so many factors, you know. And again, that is probably now not really right, but all the other parties leaders must understand that how do you
As
bring
well.
about social and political change in a society,
Exactly.
you know, especially a society like ours, multicultural, religious, you know, low political awareness. I mean, you know, and all these schisms and isms that exist in our society, the polarization, and so in that kind of society, the poverty, the lack of education, or you know, poor education, and so on. How do you bring about change that benefits people, that people see and embrace? Now, that is the big question, not just Halifa and Syria or Doi, but all transformative
Political
political leaders have to address. And
Absolutely.
so, how did Obama get the votes that he got? Knowing
Exactly.
the factors as
Yeah.
a black
Dynamic.
man in America, and you know, how did we manage to get the votes that he got? You know,
Yeah.
beyond and above his personal qualities. So, I mean, and the examples around the world, you can go around the world and look at it. So
Yeah.
that is a matter. Probably Doi has to go back to the drawing table to look at, you know, in addition to what we are doing, what more can we do?
Yeah.
You know, and so on. But sometimes I think Gambians look at this in a very simplistic way. And,
Yeah.
you know, and for me, partly that explains the problem we are facing here.
Yeah, I mean, and the problem is not only for Doi as well. We all know that there are political
Definitely.
parties out
Definitely.
there. They're struggling. I mean, it's not like you said. It's much more complex. I mean, yes, you have the message, and then you have the messenger, and then you have the culture. Because there was something that Pasamba said about this Jammeh issue. We all see in 2021 the call it tactical move that Barrow made in terms of, I mean, reaching out to the APRC. It was deliberate. And one could say that the Gambian people, I mean, most people would say that maybe he was able to win because of making that move, really. And sometimes in politics and the political parties, the opposition parties are looking at that. Do I want to alienate 15% of the voters? And whoever thinks that Jammeh still doesn't have his supporters, you must be daydreaming. And as a politician, how do you approach it? Are you going to be sitting here talking about if Jammeh comes here tomorrow, then go arrest? We're going to take him to the gallows. The moment you start talking like that, I'm telling you, you're already alienating a good chunk of these voters. I mean, call it being opportunistic, perhaps some call it nuance. But when everything is said and done, Gambians themselves, the electorate, the voters themselves, basically rewarded Barrow in 2021 for doing just that. So it makes you wonder, maybe we need to look at ourselves, the voters themselves. So if I'm a politician and I want to win an election, now I'm not going to compromise my principles, but I'm also going to be very careful with my messaging. And I mean, call it nuance, Papsamba, all you want, but that's the difficulty that some of these opposition parties are dealing with.
Well, you see, Musa, when you're dealing with Sarian, at some point, Jammeh's voters, they cannot be more important than the victims of that country. This is a guy who was not engaged in only corruption. This is a guy who ordered the killings of almost about 250 Gambians. Musa, at some point, we have to either stand up for justice or not. Nuancing it, worrying about the votes that you're going to get. If people do not vote for me based on principle, they can keep their votes. But I'm not going to go there and make Jammeh a human being. Jammeh is not human, and Jammeh has never shown any respect to the Gambians and to the victims themselves. So what is there to nuance? Now, of course, politicians would try to play politics. That's why I am not one.
I think that's false equivalency, though. Nobody is saying that sanitizing Jammeh or not calling for what it is. What I'm saying is,
the
electorate which you are part of, the electorate that you are part of.
I have had your movement. One of your members of your movement, of the Unite movement, pretty much making an argument you think he was hired by Jammeh as his lawyer.
No.
Because everything that these people do, hold on, Mos.
No.
Everything they do,
I think it's very unfair.
A political lens.
No. The movement's position is very clear.
I'm not talking
But
about.
they are not going
I'm
to
talking about the
endorse or
politicians.
support
They tell
anything
you
that
one
is
thing that's
outside of their values and their norms and things that they believe in. So
Musa.
I think that would be very unfair
So,
for you to
so
level them.
Musa, I'm just curious. What is the basis of your argument when it comes to this APRC
No.
stuff? Oh, hold on. I'm just asking you. You raise an important question, a fundamental question for that matter. And what I heard is politics. They are part of the electorate. Here is the fundamental. What is the basis of your question? Number one, we all know he's a dictator. Number two, he maimed and killed a lot of Gambians. Secondly, and thirdly, he's outside the country. He continued to meddle into the affairs of the country. Okay, so what is the basis of your argument?
I like it when people preach to the choir as if I'm taking the guy is a murderer. Everything about him is
Well,
evil.
I'm confused.
Hold on. You cannot be confused. You have to listen to what I said.
Okay, clarify.
You cannot be confused. I can never be associated with someone of that element. What I'm saying is, looking at people, maybe we need to look at ourselves because it starts with us. If Adama Barrow, I said, was able to make this tactical or political move, and somehow he was compensated by you, me, and everybody else. I am saying that is why some of these politicians, because it's across the board, they are all nuancing. Obviously, they repudiate, anything that Jammeh has done. But when you listen to them, they're nuancing their answers. That's where you hear things like, he's a citizen and he has every right to come.
I really don't care too much for that type of answers. You know, the fundamental truth here is he's a dictator. He killed Gambians. And any politician who wants to take a soft stand because of political expedience, it's not. Gambians should not vote for that.
What you just said. No politician has come out and say it like that.
I think it's the highest order of betrayal. And the people who fought,
I agree,
whose blood have been spilled,
I agree,
for him to stay in that office. So
absolutely agree.
Who cares if you offend the other part of the people?
Bro,
who think you,
what I'm saying is, I absolutely agree with you. He's a dictator. He's a killer. But no politician has said that now in this day. Now maybe before.
Well, they need to say that stuff.
I am telling you.
I guess the 70%.
Then you should be against
the 70% of
the youth
who needs to vote
for
people who needs to be leaders in 2026.
I agree.
They need to put this as a precursor that people need to come out and make their stand clear about dictator Jammeh.
Have you heard them make it that clear?
Well, I don't care, but this is the message that needs to go.
But that's the point that I'm making.
Right. No, Musa, this is my point, man. As a citizen, I will not support any candidate, party, or association
murderer, man,
that associates not only with Jammeh's APRC, but even Fabakari's APRC, because to me, they ruined our country, killed our people, and there is absolutely no justice, no remorse, nothing for the victims. So in my conscience cannot allow me to support, like if Musa Jeng was running for office,
right, and
I get any inclination, it doesn't even have to be Jaharang, that you know what, this guy is nuancing something so that he can give the Jammeh supporters, you're not getting me. I'll be out the door. So to me, that's the thing. Because to me, Musa, I think, and I understand where you're coming, and I don't want people to confuse what you're saying with, or maybe no, because I know this is why you fought against the guy from inception to the time he left. But here is the thing, though. There is nothing more insulting than when I hear people now worrying about Jammeh's feelings. Or he's a former leader. This is the same man who, when Buba Balde died, a dead body, Jammeh stood and said he would not be buried in the country. This is the same guy who Fatou Jaumane, because Fatou Jaumane had the audacity to write something against him. As soon as she get into the country, what did they do? Went and arrested her. The only thing that saved Fatou Jaumane is that because her brother was there and saw what happened and reported to the world, they would have done something else to her. So this is the guy that we're talking about.
Masamba.
Ibu Ki Nakaratuta.
Ibu Job
Ibu Job and Alaji
Job
Mahmoud.
Mahmoud.
If you go and look at my last posting on Facebook, I dealt directly with this issue, and that is the way politicians are acting.
Yep.
All of them. Go back and look at my last posting. I'm on the same wavelength. What I'm saying is to bring it back to us as the voter, that we dictate how politicians act. If Barrow was rewarded for taking that position, that is what is setting up these politicians to be nuancing their answers. They will not come out. I'm telling you, I haven't heard it.
Oh, we get the point, and we get what you're posing. But here is the thing, though. I think 2026 and beyond, there should not be any element of compromise. Whether they gain political expediency out of it, I think we need to hold them accountable. People need to clearly state what their position is when it comes to jamming. Whether that's going to tilt the balance against their favor, who cares about the widows, the orphans, the victims who sit out there, they are seeking justice every single day. I don't care about much. I get what you're saying. But what I'm confused is, there's political... Yes, but stand firm. Let's speak against Jammeh's brutality.
Yes, and we will continue to do that.
Yes.
And we will continue to do that. And that's the reason why most of us don't even support this Barrow government, because of moves like that, the betrayal. But what I'm telling you is, what I'm telling you is, the problem is with us, because we reward that kind of behavior. And that is why we're setting the tone for the politicians to act just like that.
And I'm telling you, Father Mose, as the chief strategist, the political and a diehard supporter of UMC, I'm telling you, I hope you take the same message to the movement and say that, hey, we need to stand shoulder to shoulder. Hold on, shoulder to shoulder.
This has nothing to do with the movement. The movement, their position is clear.
No. Father Mose, again.
The movement's position is they are not in support of anything that is outside of the values and the norms
I'm trying to amplify
my
voice and hopefully
all I'm saying is let's put the mirror.
Nothing. It doesn't work.
Let's take the mirror in front of us as the electorate, because the hypocrisy is too much from our people, and that is why politicians are acting the way they are acting.
And you know what, to those politicians, Musa, if any of these politicians think it a nuancing an answer, and what Jammeh wanted, to me, I believe 100% they can do whatever, that he was onto something. That's what they were trying to do.
Of course.
If Jammeh had come back to the Gambia, you think an Ousainou Darboe would be working freely in that country? Or a Halifa Saleh would be working freely in that country? Or a Madi Jorbated or anybody?
Absolutely
the guy is a maniac. He's a sadist. He's a murderer. I would rather have Barrow 1 billion years before I even think about Yaya Jammeh as a name. Okay? The man is a murderer. The man, in fact, Jammeh should be, like they would say, like Loom would say, under the jail.
Under the jail.
Because of everything that he has done to Gambians. And if he thinks that due to political expediency, or let's just try to court his supporters, let's not say anything because his supporters. If Jammeh doesn't want to come to the Gambia as a private citizen,
no,
he doesn't want to come to the Gambia as a former head of state. He wants to come to the Gambia as a president to take revenge on people that he believed that he had already abused. But so to me, the politicians can act foolish all they want. But we cannot go back to the dark days of Jammeh's brutality. He was the worst thing that has ever happened to that country, and he should be condemned to history. In fact, he needs to be condemned in jail and tried, and maybe the death penalty brought back. If he is convicted of it, it will be a good example.
Brother Madi, your take.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Well, I mean,
Coach Pasamba and Madi on this.
Thank you.
You don't agree with me?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Why do you disagree with me?
I am confused what you were saying, man.
I am confused with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm unequivocal. I've come under APRC folks. I mean, attack, and but you know, this is a question of morality. It's a question of sovereignty. It's a question of humanity. And so for me, there are things that are non-negotiable, and nothing is worth, really, for us to ignore certain things. So a human being like Jame, I think all the descriptions Coach gave are even not enough to describe the. I mean, it's like you look at Trump today, the lack of humanity, the lack of shame, the lack of, I mean, anything good you can imagine. Jame is that kind of a person. Jame is still sitting in Equatorial Guinea without no iota of remorse, and with a sense of self that, I mean, of invincibility, and even have the audacity to associate himself with, I mean, anything that is of the highest, I mean, value. Knowing all the things he did, denying dead people to be buried in their country, taking advantage of children. He's arrested people, all women, children, because they have a problem with their son, with their father. Like, so the basic element of humanity doesn't exist in Yahya Jammeh. And so, when it comes to Yahya Jammeh, all governments to speak one language, that, we will grab him and dump him under the prison. Not even in the prison, under the prison. He is the worst that could come out of us. Really. Yes. And for for someone who, right, is one that Gambia gave him everything. Our people gave him everything, maybe what he is. So he is the most ungrateful human being you can imagine. So for me, I mean, Coach Ansarian, when it comes to Yajam, and I hope all our political parties don't speak in any nuanced way, in with any sense of opportunism or fear and so. Because at the end of the day, yes. So
the question is, are they doing that? Because you would even hear politicians say,
unfortunately.
I mean, they are doing that. My position is this. And that's why I wrote about it, that politicians are exploiting it because of the voting patterns of us.
Yeah, they can exploit all they want.
I'm telling you, they are.
It's not the right thing to do, and it's a shame.
It's a shame. But sorry, I'm echoing what is happening in the political field. Most of these people are acting just like that. Really. That is why I wrote about it, because I could see that they're looking at that 50%, 20% voting block. And they're like, you know what? The only way that I can win an election, if I do this, if I do that. They want to differentiate Jammeh from the Jammeh voters. So in their process of doing that, they're making calculations. That is why you don't get the direct answers that the way you spell it out, the way Pasamba would spell it out, you know what I mean? Jammeh is a murderer, and anyone who endorses Jammeh, you wouldn't hear them say that. Actually, they would say something like, well, even Jammeh, we prefer Jammeh to Barrow, or Jammeh that limb deaf. The sanitization.
Nobody will switch Barrow for Jammeh. That is kidding me?
You don't hear people saying that?
Well, they might express what
because when you say nobody will switch, I'm like, you must be living in
here's another thing though. I want to be fair to President Barrow. I think when he's told, he made a proclamation and he says the non-alliance movement, if they start crap off, the government will intervene and hold them accountable. And Demba Sabali too.
Absolutely. But that was not the campaign they ran in 2021. It was a totally different campaign.
Well, yeah, but
let's
now
not kid ourselves.
He understands.
There is a political jockeying based on the realities of today.
Here is another thing though. Reality steps in. Huh? When Barrow pounds his chest and say, if Jammeh eats Benachin in Equatorial Guinea, I know about it. If he goes to the hospital, I know about it. And I know last week he summoned a high-level Security Council meeting. So obviously there is something out there, and we cannot, for one reason, exchange our peace and tranquility in that country. People's blood this man is sitting in Equatorial Guinea, spewing garbage thinks that he is the president of the Gambia, I really think they need to do something about it. And I'm up for I just pray to the government that if they had some type of evidence that Jammeh was in touch with Sana Manjang and Co, I think they need to push the envelope to ensure that justice prevail, and this man will be forever and forever in the books forever. And we forgot about his chapter, and people need to heal, because I know families, when they hear this Jammeh voice, how they are traumatized, man. I mean, this is just very unfair.
Let me give you a story. I was telling Pasamba, I'm like, I can't understand Gambia. My sister called his son, who happens to live in Bijilo. Munego Mbaggenulo kan togal ci kër gi de parce que dégg naa ne Yaya Jammeh ngi ñëw. The thing is, I mean, in a way,
this is how people are dealing with it every single day.
It's funny, but at the same time, it tells you the mentality.
Yes.
Somebody in Kaur calling.
They're scared. They're scared of it.
That's the kind of problems that we have in that country.
And then he speaks to because if you are a good leader, why would people will be excited and say, why if they say, you understand, people lived in fear.
And when you listen to his audio, Pasama, how could anyone listen to that and think that this guy has his balance?
And seeing you giving the cake, giving it to this man's mouth and all. I'm like, what is wrong with this man? He's not well. He's a sick man.
And don't go like when he freaking said he has a cure for AIDS and all that nonsense. I mean, the guy is delusional. He's a psychopath.
I went to the victim center and saw people who went through that nonsense. A lot of people died.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
he will lie to him. And people put Amikoli. I'll put my money on Amikoli. What she said at the campaign? Jiko amla, sai bubari. Oh, the fajar fofu no. I'll put my money on Amikoli. Sai. How many women they accuse him of this thing? Sai buri. I
like that.
Unless he gets away from our politics forever and ever, amen. Politicians are always going to be in Jammeh. Unless he's totally out of it completely.
And you know how you gonna say, even during his AIDS cure, he will choose the most beautiful lady, and the one guy, my Badibunka guy, during campaign 2016, Mune ala nyinko la fania siata back na e musunyi maje mi alonko nyinyata back asafo ko lafto jarla na o jara dora ya bulo maud lala awla jeli mo dolo bot
we got brother Alaji Sow. I mean we're getting very close to
the money man.
Yeah, the tycoon. The tycoon disguising as a hustler, and this guy, he's a money man. I'm telling you right now.
Alaji, it's been a while. How you been?
It has. I just came back from the Gambia. Actually, I was there for 7 months.
Oh my!
So
yeah, I just came back a few days ago.
And it's just
the
pulse.
Because we get accused of when Madi talks, they say, "Oh, Madi is biased." Now,
Alaji,
you were there for 7 months.
Yeah, Bangfane 7 months. It's I feel Jammeh bisa actually more Mang don't get a call. Yeah, if I hear that man, so they get Turam small blood pressure with if there is.
Yep.
Yeah, so man for got next 7 months because how I knew. No, honestly, Munuma understand the entity in Aferia Jammeh. In fact, like in Kunjur, I was having this conversation with some of the locals. Believe it or not, Jammeh had a list of people Nyohamed Aflendore in Kunjur Suwine. That's just how bad it is.
Mm-hmm.
So we should not be here. The entity in Aferia Jammeh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you are just like how do you call it? Musa Alumo Wahni, politicians, these are very funny characters.
Mm-hmm.
The lead the foreign make a statement Mohammed for clear, we will not entertain Aferia Jammeh. And any politician who entertain Aferia Jammeh, I mean Koku the foreign swing list bisa. Yeah, you know, with all that we went through with this guy, man, you know, people sitting here talking about Jammeh, that's a shame. Sometimes you just want to give up. Yeah, but reality is not dafa ute, you know, so they make Gambia take, there are people they still do affair Jammeh. I don't understand it. Why Madi?
Yeah.
Yeah, that Damabugona Lile Madi. Madi, I was in the Gambia for 7 months doing some business.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Madi?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I survived the rainy season. It was really tough. Like the months of August, September, and October, these are really, really tough months in the Gambia. But again, with all this,
terrible,
how do you call it again? You know, I mean, I listen to you, a very critical person, but I still feel a sense of hope for that country. You know, I don't know if you will agree with me, but I think it's not going to happen overnight. But I just feel so optimistic about that country. I don't know if you share that with me.
Why the hope and the optimism? What is there that you said, okay, I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic?
Well, but okay, look at me as an example. Okay. Now I just can't take it here in the West. You know, in fact, I bought my return ticket. I'm heading back again in April. No, seriously. No, seriously. I mean, is he in Fognulik, like as an example.
Right.
When I was there in 2020 and I had issues with the government, guy TMFA survived now for 7 months without electricity. We have to inform you ligay. I think, and I find that lacking, even like, you know, and I can push back on Madi, in as much as we also want to challenge the government, but swingiti fofuno dañ baña ligay. You know, dañ bara ligay. So we have to put in the effort ñu ligay dëkk bi. The angels will not come from the sky and fix that country for us. So man, I'm part of those few yo xamne man, I believe ne man, I have to be on the ground and push. Te ñu ngi ligay, like this year alone, lima bay fofu non, and I can only speak for myself. But I wallahi, if you put in some efforts, that country we can move it. Man, I'm very optimistic there. And I think the diaspora fini, like a lot of us, like Mangdon Wat and a few, you know, older folks you have there beat up nice West B, you see ground B, you get collaborate. Why I think if you put some effort, you know, there's a lot of hope for that country. Man, I for whatever reason I feel that way.
So you think there is a viable environment for somebody who wants to make a difference? And the question that I'm asking, both in terms of the political and the economic environment and the freedom to do whatever you want to do. So basically, you're saying the environment is there for someone that makes you hopeful. Because
yes.
I mean, people are looking for specifics. I mean,
nobody is saying
you support this government, but I'm just saying, what specifically is really driving the optimism or the hope? It looks like Madi doesn't see it that way. I can't speak for Madi.
Well, man, I see it that way. Honestly, you know, I think the country, like they say, you know, so faneke buga lige, nobody can do nekudisonal can, you know. Even though I'm like, okay, like my example, I brought a few people there, one from Canada, like 2 weeks before I left, two from Europe for investment. Now, said dekabi, you know, okay, nakala infrastructure is a challenge if you want to set up factories there. Electricity is a little bit of a challenge and all that. But in terms of they felt so safe, Sibi dekabi. You know, so we have that. So Mandal, for whatever reason, I think if we put in the efforts, ñu liggéey waaye loolu moom mooy nag, you know, nit yi dañoo nekk di wax rek, but at the end of the day when it comes to it, let's, you know, put our gloves on and go to work. Loolu dafa lacking trop si biir Gambia.
Yeah, so
Madi.
And I can mun naa say sax man, I give work to young people, di leen jox ay jobs. Why manyak sometimes you even struggle to find people to work for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dispute what Alaji is.
No, Madi,
go ahead.
No,
There's a delay.
Well, harama add, see, Madi will also agree with me. Like Sutawe, Kentu Nango Lige. Understand? Sungente ame, Kentu Nango Lige. Huh?
Yeah. So
But let me come. Harama nyo Madi. Harama, you know, it's just a. No, I'm serious. Huh?
Yeah.
So, are you talking about the government or you?
The people. I'm just talking about the people.
Okay.
All work is suspended.
Yeah, Madi is having internet issues.
So how is the government going to fix it?
So you don't think me? Again, most people are saying, look, the government set the tone. If you want to get these people going, you change the government, you bring in a government that would kind of create the environment for people to really get their hands dirty. Alaji, do you believe that?
No, if you want to do that, if you really want to change that Gambia, you need tough leadership. And I mean tough leadership, and it has to start from them. Why Dika Bobu Kune Kangi on their own, you get send Boba. It's Dika be like I don't know how to put it. Munga ko separate in so many different ways. Why? I mean, I don't know. Why wouldn't you billahi opportunity much like for MCB Dika Bobu? Why the people themselves are needy? Are
the problem
about government? Just locally si Gunjur Fofunon. So Tawerek, Wamala Gunjur side like Dika Biep. So Tawerek Kendu Nango Lige.
So you're saying, I mean, we want Madi to come in here because Madi is in the Gambia as well. What Alaji is saying, Madi, if I can sum it up, Moine, the problem is the people, and that government may not necessarily be the problem, Madi.
No, we may have problem, government problem, but we also have people problem.
So Madi.
Yeah,
Alaji kana sonda kumugi that imo for the kumo for dami aya kwendide. Musa is full of political angle, man. He's saying your government is not a problem.
I did not say that, but Sariang, for the most part, man, I was Sariang. Like for the most part, when I was in the camp, I was there people at a local level.
Alaji, allow Madi to come in. I think there is this delay.
Okay. Hello,
Madi, go ahead. Where is the delay? Madi. Oh, I think we freeze. No, Sarian, I'm listening to Alaji like everybody else. All you have to do is listen to the comments. Alaji is putting emphasis ne. The problem is with the people. He's not saying that the government is not a problem there. But his emphasis, moine. Guide nengu ñoo liggéey moo tax muy wane su bàq bi tooyee rek su tawee rek ku nekk
well, there's a problem.
I'm just repeating.
Alaji and I spoke for about 2 hours a lot of time, and he inspired me a lot, and he's my man, okay? But what he's trying to say is we have that problem. I mean, someone you tell him to go do stuff, or even some motorcycles. So again, if you want to sell it in Gambia, they charge you 450,000 or 500,000. You know, it's only 650,000, and you said 500,000. They want to cap 150 and pocket it. You know, this is the attitude that he's talking. We all know about it, and they don't want to do anything serious. That's what he's saying. Get out, do something. The environment is there. How you push yourself to the limit.
But Sarian, that is why we need to interrogate it to the fullest. Because Sufekene is a people's problem. And the insinuation, Moine, even if you bring Sariang to be president tomorrow, I mean, the problem would persist. So the question that we need to interrogate, that maybe there's a lot more to it than just a people's problem. And maybe that there's a leadership problem too as well. I mean, so Alaji, you're saying, even if leadership were to be changed tomorrow, that doesn't mean that the problem is going to go away. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely not.
It's not going to go away.
No.
Okay, so sorry, you should apologize to me.
No. I get what Alaji is saying. Musa, I have an experience dealing with folks. Trust me, I'm not I'm not dismissing that. But what I'm trying to say is you got to strike a balance a little bit. There is a problem. Say the opportunities. Like what kind of opportunities out there? We got a GPMB. I mean, our exports are zero. That's why the dollar today is $75 to a dollar, $75 to a dollar. What are we doing to offset that? Are we doing any exports to offset, to create a balance where our currency is stabilized? Yes, I will hold the government accountable. They're not doing much in that aspect, Musa.
I am not dismissing what you're saying, but all I'm saying is what I'm hearing from Alaji. Alaji is putting emphasis in, look, even if you change the government tomorrow, the problem is not going to go away. So clearly, that's why I want to hear from Madi.
Okay, I'm here.
Yes, Madi.
Yeah. So
you've heard
let
Alaji,
me say,
yes.
Yeah, before my internet, I think it started to misbehave. No, I mean, in a broad sense, one cannot disagree with Alaji. And so when I was speaking in terms of the state, because you have the state and the society. The state has obligations. And in my view, there are so many things that the state should do as part of their obligations, legal obligations that are not happening or not happen in the way it should happen according to law. But then in any society, there is private initiative, individual initiative. And not just Gambia, but anywhere, as he struggled to, get what he is talking about, the difficulties in the Gambia. Someone can be in Japan and talk about in the Japanese society what is a challenge, so to speak, I hope, or in Sweden or in the US. All right. In the Gambia, like him, there are many with good initiatives, good ideas, good intentions, and they've come and they have found a way to uplift themselves and many people around. And there are many people who also came, but it is the opposite experience. The route I take to do my exercise, for example, I've seen young Gambians, who did not go the back way. They have a welding shop, and they're not just making gates and, beds and so on, but they're trying to make a different kind of bed that innovative. All right. There are Gambians who have gone to the farms, to farm, take up farming. People, in my category, in our class, who went to go and farm. People set up business. So in society and in Gambian society, when you look at that, you will see a lot of private initiative, individual initiative to make a difference, to create impact. That exists. But like he is saying, given his experience, all right, if you're coming from the West like him, you go to Gunjur and you will find folks that are in Gunjur, like the rest of Gambia, and in the daily struggles, he was there and talking about the range, the state of affairs, how it is. And I'm sure there are a lot of Gunjur people who are on the beach with the fish meal companies in the fishing industry doing what they are doing. But at the end of the day, you will find a lot of people with that great effort and initiative cannot make even, cannot, cross to the next level. And that has also generated a whole frustration, because how does frustration happen in society? People have experienced failures many times. People have seen others' failures and experiences. So you may end up, like him, meet a group, an individual who you think, look, youth man, here is job. But, people have life experience such that that person, with his level of thinking, mind, and everything else, may not give the attention that the opportunity has offered him. I have gone to petrol stations to buy petrol or to service centers, and a youth is there. And you sit down until the vehicle gets to the petrol station, to the service center, and then you start to walk easily, or you even horn this person, look, the attendant. And so it raises the question, I mean, our people, what is the matter with our people? What is customer service? You are here at this center, somebody is coming to buy, service.
Yes,
you are supposed to be there and attend, and you sit there, and the next moment, others would say there are no jobs in the Gambia. So those experiences happen. But as much as we experience this, we should not miss the fundamental picture, all right? That at the end of the day, what we are experiencing in this country, all right, and I guess in many other places, is that the catalyst for development, for that awareness, for that sense of duty. Yes, you and me as individuals have that to raise ourselves, but beyond and above, we also need a catalyst, and that catalyst is the state. How many of our youth are into welding, into carpentry, into music, in performing arts, and they are making great effort to make a difference? All right. By our individual support, with support from you in the diaspora, other individuals, whether even ideas or resources. But beyond and above that, they also need state intervention, so that at the end of the day, you realize that is not forthcoming. And so that amount of effort, sometimes many people are not in a position, either in terms of their mind or in terms of their skills or ability, are ready to invest in that. And maybe that is a long distance. Let me just take a shortcut. So Alaji offers me a job, but I mean, I'm not coming here to make, this much, a day, a week, a month. I mean, for how long? I mean, so let me try something else. So when you have a failed state, or a state that is not responding to the needs of the people, trying to create the environment to trigger, to strengthen the initiatives of individuals, and so everyone has to definitely struggle, to make things stand like Alaji is doing. You then have experiences that he has experienced. So I have no doubts, if you're talking about idleness, if you talk about lack of vision, lack of commitment, that carefree attitude, you will find loads and loads of it in Gambia. But at the same time, you will find in Gambia a lot of individuals who have no education like you and me, no opportunities, not privileged in any way, in Sarakunda, in Banjul, in Boraba, in Basse, and so on, doing frantic effort to, build something, to create an initiative. All right, that also is there. And so for me, my focus really is not on society. I know we need civic education. We need to train our people on many things.
Right.
Basic customer service. All right, I have called companies. Like I go and I said, look, who is the manager? I said, look, the service at your company is poor, or the service at this office in this bank is poor. All right. And we have to recognize that this is something that probably since independence, this is the culture we've been nurturing, living in this country. And it has got to a point, it has become normalized, a way of life. So you want to help and people are running away. You want to help and people are just being dishonest. All right. I take deliberate steps. I mean, measures to say, if I want to fix something, carpentry in the Gambia or something, I'm going to get a Gambian boy or girl who is into that and support. But I mean, I have my experiences. I'm sure if I also explain, it is there. But beyond the work, I still think it is a matter of the state. How does our state become a catalyst, an enabler, so that even with all these human failures we may have, but at least opportunity is there for anyone with initiative, anyone with an idea, a vision. You have somewhere to build it on, and it flourishes. So I don't disagree with him. Really.
So he's putting emphasis on the people. You're putting emphasis on the leadership, creating the environment. Would that be a fair assessment? I guess, Madi. But guys, I think we're kind of
Well, Musa,
running out of time.
Kuma Danile, Lima encourage Musa.
Right.
Man ma baile money.
Post the ads.
Yeah.
Ana coach. Mane coach.
Now.
Coach dañ paak suñ doba suñ ñibi.
Kii du ñibi de. Kii du ñibi de. Kii fenn la du dem. Kii fenn la du dem.
Gis nga xam nga lana dal suñ dëkk bi ha. ñu nit yoo xam ne dañ ambitious ñu am drive ñi comme lu moo wax ni soo fa yàggee da nga frustrate even ñu fa nekk ñoo xam ne dañ am drive dañ ambitious su yàggee both the state and the people dañ la dee frustrate nga génn dëkk bi waaye foog naa suñ delloo ñu work together billahi mën nañoo liggéey dëkk bi maanaam tuubile ba lu nekk sample naa ko fa
definitely.
Because did you call legal? Like for them see Adnabi, government see politicians, they are not going to fix it for us.
No, linga te dekala be pare sa alaji. ñi nga xam ne fu mu nekk màgget lañ fu mu nekk nekk na ci
Our culture and politics is are polluted.
So the old people ñi nga xam ne have retired reach the retirement age ba tey ngoyalu Masi Musa Jeng it is the time to at least go back Kawur.
Staples balaa koy buy ice cream yi ak hamburger yi. Hey,
I don't do ice cream.
He's armchair activist. Hold on one second. Hey, somebody is working in the Gambia and making a huge difference, and that is other than global properties.
No deposit, flexible payment plans, and lots of discounts. Get your Lakeview apartment today.
Who said Gambians are not working? They're building companies, making a difference, like Milan.
Global Properties observes Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Get tested and know your status.
In honor of the fighters, survivors, and the ones we lost, Global Properties is giving access to women to own a plot of land at Greenville today.
We are making it easy. Buy a plot of land with zero deposit and 24 monthly payment for only $20,833. Early detections saves lives.
So Madi, final statement, Madi. Thank you very much. It's been a good one. I can't even believe that it's almost 5 o'clock. Wow, 4:36.
Yeah, I mean, and it's to 10 o'clock here. Yeah, I think the final thing I would say, and it's important, or it's good that Alaji came in and expressed what he said, so that when I reflect on what he said and our conversation, and then look at the environment living here, it raises the question: how did we educate ourselves? Education has a purpose, so that you and me at home with our children, like any other family or parent, you teach even before the child goes to school. We teach the child because we want the child to be a certain kind of a human being.
Yes.
That is the purpose of education. We want the human being to be a certain kind of human being, to have a certain kind of culture, attitude, character, And so when the person goes to school, again, the state should have an idea as to what kind of human being do I need to create. You see? So that when I look at the government today, of all the things we've talked about, I think that is, one area, a fundamental area where failure has been done. So that at the end of the day, the government we have today has not been educated in a way as to produce that Gambian that I would call a sovereign citizen, which Day or Halifax is the sovereign citizen. I see the Gambia as that it's a place, a country where we don't have citizens yet. We have individuals, of course, the Gambians, you and me and Coach here and Saryang. We can show a passport, ID card, birth certificate, but we are Musa and Madi. We are from Boraba and Kaur. We are Wolof and Madenka and Jola. We are Muslim and Christian. We are UDP or NPP or APRC and so on. And that is what matters. That is the Gambian we have. So that we have that kind of people. So that when you say something about the Mandinka, you see all the Mandinka shout out, or the Wolof. You say something about Muslim or Islam, all the Muslims jump up, or the Christians. If you say something about, if you say something about NPP or UDP, they all jump. But you can defraud the Gambia. You can, loot the Gambia, and Gambians are not coming out to defend the Gambia. We can defend our various sectors, sectarian, enclave, but we don't defend the Gambia because also we have not been given that kind of education. All right. that we nurture that sovereign Gambian today. So when I see Gambians and I engage with Gambians with the highest level of education, Gambians with the highest level of positions, privileged Gambians, and I see intellectuals, elites, and I see what drives them, what concerns them, their lack of outrage of what is happening, and their comfort to the point saying, Monday, Gambia, man, I'm not interested in Gambia again. You hear somebody say that. Not to mention those other ones who are just not educated, who have never left Boraba, they are sitting there.
Yeah.
Their scope, their understanding, their appreciation, their responsibility to the Gambia is so limited. And so when that happens, Musa, you have the kind of experience that Alaji Haput says happens. You hear what politicians say about Jammeh coming. You would see how people respond to the Auditor General's report, or people, how they will take politics. I mean, it is about interest, no permanent friends, and jumping from one party. So practically no principles. And I think that has weakened our society, misdirected our society, particularly at the highest level, so that you hear politicians say, if I leave, my party will die.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, if you hear the holder of the highest office say that, and there's no outrage in the society, then you know these people are not yet Gambians, they are not yet sovereign citizens, they are just individuals in this society. If you hear a politician say, well, in campaign you can say anything, but office, it is something else, then you realize then there's something fundamentally wrong with that society, with that culture, with that politics. And I think, for me, this is where we are. We need to salvage ourselves, because we don't have yet that citizen. We don't have yet a republic. We have a state and society, but we don't have a republic, because a republic is not just political. All right, it's not just economic, social. It is also mentality. It's a certain kind of mentality to say I'm a Republican. I mean, I live in a republic. I'm a citizen in a republic. Citizenship is not just being born here and with all the certificates that you would have, the papers, but it is also a certain kind of mentality. And I see that mentality is so limited, in this country. And for me, that explains, the experience Alaji would have, or you would have, or I would have every day. And it saddens me and it frightens me as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Very much, Madi. It's always good to have you on this platform. There is this guy, Mustafa, that I think you came in a little bit. We can give you 2-3 minutes if you want to come back again, and I'll put you on, Mustafa.
And Musa, before to just add to as soon as the guy comes, I will set up. There is something that Fala, Fala, and how crazy he is.
Fala, yeah.
Yeah. There was something that he said. We were talking about tribalism, something he talks about like crazy. Sometimes I just ignore him.
Yeah.
But there was something that he said, like when they are stealing our resources,
the
Mandinka, the Wolof, the Jola, they have no problem colluding together to steal from the people.
Of course.
But when it comes to politics, they want us to focus on key Sosela, key Mandinkala, key Jola, key Wolof land, all these things. So you have these people who will collectively work. They don't care about a tribe when they are mismanaging our resources. But when they want our votes, they want us to focus on, vote for me because I'm a Wolof, vote for me, but don't vote for Key, hate Mandik. So it's like Madi said, we need that education of our people. And in fact, the people that need to be educated the most are the people that are educated. Because they are the most selfish.
The so-called intellectual.
No, you cannot be an intellectual.
That's why it reinforced.
There was something that Dr. said to me in Atlanta. I can remember that. Because I was all angry about these intellectuals who wrote that letter to Jammeh and said we supported the coup.
Yeah.
And then when everything they went quiet, and the doctor said was, you know what, don't mistake a university degree with intellectualism. An intellectual is somebody who is politically conscious of his responsibility, and somebody who would stand up for the people. And that's the thing. The people that are educated, they went to their high schools, their universities, and all these things, but they don't care about the state. So those people are not conscious.
It's a game of survival.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing about
Boy, Sarian is asking for his better, So,
No, final statement. Like when Alaji talked about Gambians, like inherently the problem is with us. But somehow, the moment we go to another environment, let's say to the US, you totally change. Now you're so hardworking. Now it's about a go-getter.
Getting to work on time.
What happened? What happened?
Accountability.
Who has just transitioned from one environment to another and has become a totally different person. I mean, less corrupt for whatever reason.
Musa, accountability.
Exactly.
You as the controller of your company, like me as the manager of where I work. If I steal a penny, I go to jail. In the Gambia, Madi is the Attorney General. You know Madi. Oh, Madi is boiler. So that's the thing. Here you don't even know who deals with it. The police doesn't know you or anything. If you don't go to work on time, you don't get paid. If you don't do the job, you get fired. In the Gambia, you just come to work at 9 o'clock, go home at 2 o'clock.
He's asking for his benefit, my man, he's always out there hitting the beaches and
because I'm low energy right now. I don't have stamina. In order to have stamina, I need to eat my benachin. So just to let you know.
So, bro, Buyapala or Bendambaila?
Oh no. Take if I live in Seda. Seda is all the way from Gambia. Bohonga, season. Bullet aside, put shrimps there and everything. Jahas pahas.
No. I have to come to Arigan to visit you.
They put dahar, sipa, blah blah. No. I'm a Musa. I know you're gonna take me for that, but anytime Jennifer said Mayo Talib Bensouda is her mayor. She's from Kanifing South, and that is it. So every time the mayor does well, interview wise will speak fluently, and Jennifer said, Bidal na mayo dal ayadoku kende barak. Jasi maron bil after munalanka ko endalin di mina ron benachino subo onye.
You know the Kiankas are watching. I don't know whether you know that.
Huh? Okay.
Brother Madi, thank you very much.
Man. All right, guys. Thank you.
So I call it Bensouda Benachin. That's how I call it.
We were expecting Alaji Usainu, unfortunately, because of the passing of MC Cham. That's why he wasn't able to make it. But we are definitely gonna reschedule, and we will definitely bring him back here on this platform. Guys, thank you very much.
Hey, Mr. Tarawale, I didn't see the scores today. I think you're not gonna be biased because Musa did very poorly among all the scores today.
I think Musa is 10% today. Madi 90, Madi 98, Sarian 98.
Doing the grading.
Unfortunately, I find myself really connected with Madi and Pasambaja all the way today because they don't sway. They are standing steady as she goes when it comes to Jammeh, and I just find it really, really heartwarming to take a stand against the dictator.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Next Sunday.
Right.
Sorry.